What is going on, everybody? It is episode 261 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. I hope that today we can have a perfectly controversial episode. And today we have one of our main guest hosts, Hannah Claire. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks
Hey,
for being here.
Thanks for having me back, guys. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for timcast.com, and I've been here every Tuesday for a while now.
Well,
Truly an OG.
Yes. The real question is, did you watch Fast and the Furious?
Okay.
If Brett didn't ask, then the chat would ask. So.
I did start it. The thing
okay.
is, Fast and the Furious 4 did not interest me so much that I could resist turning on a Hallmark Christmas movie while wrapping presents.
You are just.
I regret nothing.
Yeah, this is.
I did make a good faith effort here, but ultimately I did not finish a Fast and the Furious movie this week.
It's not exactly in the Christmas spirit.
Is there a Christmas Fast and the Furious movie? Could
If there's not, maybe there should be.
Yeah, one of them should reference Christmas, and I should get to watch it right now.
That is, you know what that means, guys? That she's just putting it off. She's just prolonging
I'm just trying to
the
savor
pain.
this amazing process. I'm really enjoying it.
That's exactly what's happening, guys. So we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about J.K. Rowling. She is back in the news as ever, not for Harry Potter and certainly not for her book series, her other book series. She is opening a brand new shelter, a women's only shelter that has come under fire from activists in the community, and we will get into that. We also want to talk a little bit about. I had some thoughts on when Kirstie Alley passed. Some people came out and had various comments to make about her passing that I felt was them using it to kind of elevate themselves onto their own soapbox. The more I looked into it, the less I kind of feel that way about all of it, but there's still questions about a lot of it, about tact, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that. We are also going to talk about an actor named Matthew Marsden. He was in the show Reacher, as well as a particularly early episode of CSI Miami that I remember very vividly. And we are going to talk about his not being hired for a job recently due to his vaccination status. We'll talk about that. And we're also going to talk about R. Kelly. He's in the news again. So if you ladies are ready, with that being said, we will just get right into it. Mary, are we ready?
We are ready.
Hannah Claire, are we ready?
I'm ready.
Actually, but first, what I can say, like that, guys, if you could like the video, leave comments on the video, subscribe to the channel. I should be doing that more at the beginning of these episodes, so I'm doing it now.
Gently tap the like button.
Yes, we do not ask for any type of violence to the like button here. We like to keep things kind and cordial. Can't hear?
No, I can't hear.
It's hold on.
I
Guys, Hannah Claire didn't come up till 2:58 today.
I'm being a serious reporter today.
Is it shaming Hannah Claire Day today? Yes, I'm scandalized by this.
It's Hannah Claire does another job and is under a deadline, but I love being here. Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. All right.
Another thing I've been wanting to encourage you guys to do is leave rates and reviews for the podcast on the platforms where you listen, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, Pandora, etc. That really helps our visibility, so I just wanted to mention that too.
Perfect. That's it. In the chat's roasting me.
They're roasting you.
Yes, they're roasting me. That's fine.
What do they say?
I'm not going to repeat it. Because they want me to repeat it. So, guys, now, again, if we're ready, are we ready, Mary?
We're ready now.
All right, Hannah Claire.
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, good. We're off to a fantastic start, guys. So it says... We're off to a fantastic start. It says, J.K. Rowling criticized for launching discriminatory women's-only service for sexual abuse victims. I said the word, unfortunately.
It's called Bira's Place. It's named after a Scottish goddess of the winter time, I think.
All right.
This is women's only, not people who identify as women only, but biological women only, if we even have to place a qualifier there. Now, this is not her first trek into philanthropy, but it's going to be probably the highest profile because of her controversial statements on gender ideology. And I can't tell whether this is more of an attention grab or if it comes from a good place. But either way, I think based on what we've seen in this story, that Scotland has other women's centers that are overrun, that have waiting lists, they have to turn people away. It'll do good unintentionally, whether or not she has the best intent in doing this.
I want to go back to what you just said. You were saying before that you said, you mean she's saying sex, but gender ideology, what you just said before this.
Right before
yes. You said, does it make a difference? It does. Like what I found is that a lot of what goes on is conflation between biological sex and gender ideology, which is hilarious because that's exactly what they want. The people that are complaining about this stuff want it to be confusing.
Something funny I'm seeing in response to this is like, I'm gonna finally boycott Harry Potter because of this. And it's like, if you weren't doing that already, you probably really like Harry Potter and you should just enjoy what you love.
Yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny.
And shut up about it.
Of all the things that make you stop, it's a clinic. It's literally it's an abuse shelter.
No, someone literally tweeted, I have full reason to boycott Harry Potter now. Another person said, reminder that your attachment to Harry Potter is not more important than trans lives. Another person said, J.K. Rowling is ontologically evil. What a C word. I will never understand how people still unapologetically support her.
Imagine the absolute gall to use ontologically.
You don't even know what that word means, babe. Like, you're on Stan Twitter.
I love
and you can go ahead and boycott Harry Potter. You can boycott this women's refuge or any other projects or books that J.K. Rowling comes up with in her career. But ultimately, she won't care. And she is still richer than everyone who's criticizing her right now.
Also, it doesn't explicitly ban trans people, from what I understand. It's just assumed that it will because of her
so a
stance on it.
spokesperson. First off, points off for both of you for not using the Timcast link.
I have it here.
We do this to everyone who works here if they reference a news article that someone on our team has written about.
Not in my control. Not in my control.
It's okay. It's not a big deal. But one of the things that I would note is there are a couple points that make this situation nuanced, which is that
there it is. Perfect.
See, it's like when you force your parents to hang your artwork on your
on the fridge. It's great.
So they did have a spokesperson come out and specifically say this is a center that is offering female, meaning women survivors of sexual violence, a place where they will not come into contact with a man, biological man.
See, that's
and
a big
so
part
if
of this
there,
problem.
hold on. So if there is someone who comes there for services, they will be directed to a different place wherever appropriate. It's also all men and biological, anyone who identifies as a trans woman would be directed somewhere else. So they will not treat themselves, but they will help connect trans people with other resources. Notably, the Scottish Health Services, they had this reaction that was like, yeah, I mean, that's good because we do have too many people in need right now. I mean, and we offer... It's not like this is the only resource for trans identifying people, right? The Scottish Health Services takes a really liberal view of gender ideology, and they offer rape, crisis counseling, sexual assault, violence. They offer services like that already to trans identifying people. So this is also not a charity. It's not a nonprofit. It's completely privately funded by J.K. Rowling. So you couldn't have an activist who says you shouldn't be able to do that. Trans women are women. Petition the government.
She holds all the
power to punish them. Right. Yeah. She gets to do this however she wants to.
I saw that there were other board members, but is J.K. Rowling really the only person funding this?
Yeah, she's
like the singular person funding this.
It doesn't.
Does she want funding from anyone else?
No, it doesn't. It's so that
the whole point is that
this is one of having to comply with any other ordinance. So part of it is that the Scottish government is considering legislation that makes it so. So right now in Scotland, you have to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria by a psychiatrist to be able to apply for a certificate of gender identity. So it basically says, like, if you're a biological man and you think you're a woman, you have to convince a psychiatrist, they diagnose you, and the government will then be like, here, from now on, you can be legally recognized by the gender of your mind's choosing. This is something that most of the board members and J.K. Rowling has specifically spoken out against, because they say there are places that current legislation permits to be single sex, and this will then violate this, because you won't have people having to verify. You have to provide them service, even if they just say, you know, I feel like I'm a woman. You know, if you're a gender fluid person's like, well, today I'm a woman, so I want to use a woman's locker room, or a, you know, like... One of the problems becomes like prisons. It gets really macro, but this is coming up against a question of like, how does Scotland as a government think about gender holistically? And it's sort of a preemptive step. She did this interview that was really, J.K. Rowling did this interview that was really interesting, saying like, I was extremely angry about this upcoming legislation, and then I realized I could do something about it. And so this is her doing something about it, which I applaud. Like, if you
so like one of the criticisms that they were getting is this is a private limited liability company. They're not registered as a nonprofit charity. Therefore, J.K. Rowling is going to shield herself from the consequences if things go wrong for patients. They're also pointing out that the website for Bira's Place is marked as insecure on multiple browsers right now, and therefore they're saying it's vulnerable to get hacked and have survivor information leaked. But probably if that happened, it would be by nefarious actors from gender ideology camps. So I don't know why they would point that out. I don't know that
you can trust. I mean, in this day of like technological warfare from like one-sided politics, I don't know that you can trust something that's marking a website insecure, right? Like, if you're looking at it in your Google Chrome browser, which has a left-leaning bias already, of course they think this thing is insecure because they don't like it. I'm not saying that's what's going on. I'm just suggesting
I have no idea why it says that.
Exactly.
But the website on their frequently asked questions page was answering the question, why is Bira's Place for women only? The answer is, our service is offered in accordance with the Equality Act of 2010, which permits the provision of single-sex services for women in various situations where there is good reason for them. And then they provide all of these examples of scientific evidence that this is helpful for victims of abuse. So basically all the people whining on Twitter are ignoring the evidence.
Yes.
And they hate J.K. Rowling to begin with before this news ever came out, and they're just looking for more reasons to trash her.
One thing one paragraph that I love, the one that signaled Clown World to me, was this one. It says, all victims of sexual abuse and assault need support, love, and help. They need facilities to help them with their traumas that they've faced. I'd be praising setting up a refuge if it wasn't rooted in turning some women away.
Yeah.
It's
another person that I think it's actually quite telling to the vindictive nature of J.K. Rowling that she's had the means, resources, and power to set up a crisis center for over 20 years, and she's only decided to do it now so she can use it as some bizarre point scoring against trans victims. Do you realize that 20 years ago, yes, when she had, or even 10 years ago, when she had the power and resources to create a center like this, the culture was not in the same place it is now. Therefore, the need wouldn't have existed as much as it does now. Yep. The legislation that you were talking about, Hannah Claire, was not about to get passed, and therefore there was not as much of an urgent need for something where they're dedicated to a very specific pool of victims.
I'd also say that she has a history of philanthropic activity, whether you agree with them or not. I know she has a different nonprofit that specifically works on adoption issues in the UK. I mean, just because 10, 20 years ago this was not her philanthropic focus, I don't see an argument for she should never join this fight, right? If Scotland doesn't have the resources to provide care for people in these situations, why wouldn't you ask a private institution to be involved in it? Like, I think we should have people who have the resources and power doing as much as they can to serve their communities in as many ways as possible. Just because she didn't already do it doesn't mean that she shouldn't now. It doesn't really make sense.
I also thought it was interesting that Mr. Radcliffe, Daniel Radcliffe, responded on the Trevor Project website, which is an organization that provides 24/7.
They have Daniel Radcliffe on a leash over there at the Trevor Project. They get his public statements on like clockwork on their website.
I've always thought he was dating someone involved with it.
Like, what is going on there?
my point here is that they're allowed to have their groups specific to their causes. She is not, according to them.
Well, when they say, like, go make your own thing, go do your own thing, stop encroaching on what we do, then you do that.
And they follow you.
Every single time follow you to your new project and tell you that it should be banned, or they want to pass legislation to make it illegal. Whatever you do, you won't escape their constant watch.
And oddly enough, it ends up deflecting the problems of bad men in this situation, because it's no longer about what men are doing to how men are abusing women. It's become about this, which is, like a tiny amount of the population compared to the women that are actually likely being abused by their male counterparts, right? So now you're not talking about what actually matters, which is the abuse that women are suffering at the hands of, I guess it doesn't have to just be men, but it could be, I'm guessing that the majority of those cases would be at the hand of other men.
Even when it's trans victims.
Although same-sex
I know,
female relationships have extremely high rates of domestic violence.
But the point is that it
like,
deflects.
Stop it, I've already heard that talking point.
But I'm saying, but the point is here is that it's deflecting the point away, so then the men get, the bad men get off the hook here because we're not even talking about that issue. We're just talking about something that isn't really relevant because it shouldn't even matter because it's not anybody's business but hers, what she does with a business she builds and starts on her own.
Right. There was this disingenuous criticism of her shelter saying, you know, J.K. Rowling doesn't believe men get abused too. That's completely intellectually dishonest. To say that you're not recognizing all other problems that exist in the world by focusing on finding solutions for one of them.
And let's face it,
that's such a lie.
Whoever that person was doesn't give a crap if men get abused.
Right.
They're
also,
using it as a cudgel.
Like, really, if we are hoping to actively serve the people in these situations, whether they be male or female, right, we would look at this like a specialist. If you have cancer, you can go to the doctor and they might be able to help you, but really they'll direct you to an oncologist.
Yes.
If you are a woman facing domestic violence and you live in Scotland that is already strapped for resources, it would be nice to have another specialized option, especially if you feel extremely uncomfortable being treated by a man in any way, right? What if the only caseworker the state has available to you is a man, and that in some ways, you know, makes you feel like, especially if you're a victim of domestic violence, like you should be able to work with a woman if that resource is provided for you by a private organization.
Well, also, it's like the women that are going here aren't going to necessarily, the women that are being brought to these shelters aren't necessarily in line with her politically as far as this issue. They're just women that have been abused. You're punishing these women by trying to shut this clinic down.
Because you don't like J.K. Rowling's tweets.
Right. And isn't there someone else who is pro the trans community who could start a specific shelter for them? Like, that doesn't mean that no one else, they do exist, and that doesn't mean no one else can do this. Like, let her serve a small specific a community of affected women without it being a threat to your community, which also has access to care already.
They don't believe that, though. They believe that anything that doesn't include them is considered a threat to their community and not inclusive.
Which is so insecure. Like, if the government recognized you enough to devote taxpayer resources towards you, and one private organization is like, well, since you guys already have something, we're going to focus on this. Like, it's not a threat to you. You have to get over yourself.
There's one criticism of this that I think actually should bear a mention. They've found that J.K. Rowling selected one board member who has experience running a women's prison called Corton Vale, which has... I think failed to pass certain inspections because they imposed poor conditions on female inmates. Yeah. I don't know much about that situation because...
I just don't understand the connection to Beera's Place, right? Beera's Place.
She's one of the board members.
Yeah, but she's not a prison and she's on the board. Like, she's not the director of it. Like, I get what you're saying. It's worth noting her background.
Well, they think it's hypocritical that maybe J.K. Rowling didn't look into this woman's history.
But also, like,
and her implication.
Did the person leveling this accusation look into why the person has failed the inspections? Like,
obviously
it's serious, but it's like this thing where they're grasping for straws, right? They're like, well, here's some bad press about someone who's sort of associated with this. Like, she's not even the director of Beera's Place. Like,
sure.
I just hate that we're always trying to ruin, like, potentially positive things, right?
It is all about, like, I don't want good news. I want bad news all the time, every day. They're addicted to finding new reasons to be angry. One person said, I'm sure if J.K. Rowling single-handedly saved children from a burning building, then Pink News readers would accuse her of neglecting firefighters. No matter what she says or does, some people always look for an issue.
This was kind of born out of Trump times, right? Where everything he did was bad no matter what. But I do have good news.
Wait, hold on. My last point is, I think it's funny because you can boycott Harry Potter for whatever reason you want. Like, if you feel like she's mean to trans people, you can boycott it.
Yeah.
If you don't like that she said Albus Dumbledore is gay, you could also boycott it. Also, the witchcraft thing. Like, this woman cannot do anything but lose. I'm not even a huge fan, but, like, this is clearly a positive thing. like privately funded. It's not going to cost anyone else anything, and it can really help people in need. Like, why do we have to be like, she didn't do it exactly right, so this is awful?
Well, that's because they're being intellectually dishonest, and they're not mad that she didn't do it exactly right. They're mad that she didn't do it exactly like them. She's made literally every
camp mad. She's made the religious right angry. She's made a lot of right wingers who don't like the, you know, retroactively changing the storyline to make Dumbledore gay thing. They don't like the race swapping Hermione thing. And then now she has this new camp that's mad at her about not agreeing with gender ideology. It's just like, this woman can't make everyone happy, nor does she want to. She said herself, I get my checks at the end of the day. I don't care what you say.
And speaking of those checks, she bought an island from Johnny Depp, guys. So she's winning either way. I
love this headline, by the way.
Forced to escape painful Amber Heard memories, Johnny Depp sells gargantuan Bahamas island to J.K. Rowling, makes a $72 million profit. He bought it for like...
that he is escaping memories or trying to rebuild his bank account?
Well, he sold it for 70. He made $72 million profit. He bought it for like just a couple of million. It says down here, however, all the good memories combined weren't enough to deter Depp from selling his private island. The ghosts of his relationship with Amber Heard were simply too much. I feel like this is being written with snark. And
he bought it for $3.6 million and just sold it for $75 million. That's insane.
She should
Real estate is really going up lately.
She should have bought the island and donated it to trans people. I don't know what she was doing.
Well, she should have built the clinic there on the island.
It'd be hard for the women of Scotland to get there.
You just need to swim.
You gotta fly him out there.
Wait, why did she choose Scotland? Do you know?
That's where she lives, in Edinburgh.
Is she from there?
No, she's not from there, but that's where she lives.
Oh, okay.
So, you know what? At least she's got her island that she now owns. So she can laugh on her island, on her own private beach, while everyone's mad at her all the time. Literally. Do you think
I can't help but feel smug just on her behalf.
Do you think like when she's having a bad day, she's like, oh my God, people were so mean to me on Twitter. I think I'm going to go to my island and unwind. Like, I imagine.
I like it she's QVC online shopping, except it's like crazy rich people version.
Yeah, she bought this island at 2 a.m. because somebody said something particularly like hurtful on Twitter.
I just like that she's like, I saw a problem and I did something. Yeah. I feel like there are so many people complaining, and like, good for her for taking the heat. Like, she knew this was going to happen when she made this mission specific. Obviously, she's picked her board members who share her opposition to upcoming legislation. Like, I think it's so easy to say that things should be different or that we should do something. And I think if she has the resources to put them towards community good, we should applaud her for that.
Also, it seems like when American celebrities try to do stuff like this, they either do it in tandem with the government or they expect the government to do this stuff. They just virtue signal about it. They don't actually do anything about it other than maybe make a donation to a previously already run charity that has dubious intent and board members that get way more money than anybody that's actually helped via the charity.
Yeah, this is why you don't round up when they ask you if you want to round up, because you don't have the information on where it's going.
Well, and plus like you should never round up when they ask you to round up purely out of the guilt trip.
Right.
Like, just because
do you want to round up to feed this? I'm showing you a picture of this starving child.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're a bad person.
I also love, it's like there's the meme I posted there. It's like, would you like to round up to help feed poor people? It's like, I'm poor people. Like, I'm the poor person. I can't round up.
I also like that she did found this where she lives, because she's seeing a community problem and focusing on solutions in her proximity. That's where your circle of influence is.
I never want to feel mean, but it really does feel like one of those things where you complain. Like, they're complaining about something, and then when you leave to go do your own thing away from the complaining, they follow you to continue complaining about the thing they have nothing to do with.
And nothing she's doing takes away from resources that are already offered to that community. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Yes, it's an LLC. That's totally normal in business to have something that protects you from liability. I think that she's not asking for taxpayer money. The government's not involved. No national health workers are being taken away from this. Like, it's
even
its
then,
own thing that offers
those health workers have a free have their own right to make more money working elsewhere.
But like, she is not diverting resources that are already open to this specific community that's angry with her She's just offering more resources.
She does like a thing like a Burger King and McDonald's. She opens it up right next door to like one that does include trans people, like just to like she starts opening them up opposite regular clinics.
But I honestly hope she does that because I bet a lot of these clinics have extremely long waiting lines.
I've also
if you're
heard
already uncomfortable, you can just go next door and get help. Like that's good.
I've heard that some of these clinics that are stretched thin in Scotland are also known for implementing re-education on survivors about gender ideology if they have.
And that's government.
So J.K. Rowling specifically talked about this in her interview ahead of Beer's Place opening or being announced. She said that the leading, I have to look at my article to pull it up, but one of the leading government figures on this issue went on a pro-feminist podcast and said, like, while people are there, we can re-educate them on their transphobic views. And that was what triggered this whole thing. She was like, why is that necessary? Why can't you just offer
how does that help them heal?
It's adorable that people are like finally figuring out that the government isn't there to help them.
Yeah.
It's adorable to see them catch up. So let's go to some super chats.
Simon said smiggity smash that like button.
Yes. Thank you, Simon.
Yesh said slamma jamma that thumb button.
Wait, who said that?
Yesh.
No, the first one.
Simon?
Waffle Sensei? Mine says Waffle Sensei.
Oh my gosh, is the mask revealing who this guy is?
Wait, did he like switch accounts or something? I don't get it.
I don't know.
It shows up as Simon for me, so.
I might have read that wrong.
Potatoes for Seamus said, no Surge, we purge unless Hannah Claire and her eyes are here. Yeah,
They're
no
here.
Surge, please don't purge.
What if I came without my eyes?
I thought it was the jawline that they looked forward to and the eyes.
What is it that they looked forward to with Surge? I wonder.
Everyone
general
loves Surge.
demeanor. He's
well,
delightful.
plus hasn't he been absent from IRL for a while, for a couple of days?
Yeah.
So
He's not doing great.
we need him back and healthy.
Yeah, please don't purge, guys. Pray. Tacty Flatty said, Hannah Claire, I now regret making a meme from your article.
Which article, I ask you? From this
I
article?
want to know what this meme was.
Also, are you bullying me on the internet?
Bullying
Not
on
good.
the internet.
Gray Jedi Outcast said, baby, it's cold outside.
Okay, I went down a rabbit hole the other day that I should not have gone down of I got stuck in a doom scroll of people arguing about baby it's cold outside and consent. And by the time I was done, I wanted
That's
to
like 3 years old, buddy. You're just getting on it?
That argument is...
No, it was because it was part of a comedy piece that somebody posted because he compared baby it's cold outside to WAP. To WAP, and basically like the idea was
not
like,
seeing the
one is allowed
similarities.
The idea here, the guy's a boomer, and he's like, one has vulgar lyrics, the other one is being canceled, but the guy doesn't understand why the modern day weirdos on the internet talk about the consent of the song. But the point is I got stuck in this like hour-long doom scroll where I read just the most frivolous takes, and all I can think of on one hand you feel like, look at these losers on the internet arguing over this. I'm sitting here reading it.
Look at the loser on the internet reading it.
On the internet reading all of this crap. I'm talking like dissertation length explanations as to why baby it's cold outside is not a good thing for society.
I bet there actually have been.
And why white
published
Christmas
about
is
this.
racist.
Yes. Also, and then a big part of it got into a weird, like, most of these songs were written by Jewish people. And I'm like, where is this going? This is creeping me out. Like, people are weird, dude. People are freaking weird.
Once again, the internet was a mistake.
It was. It kind of was.
Potatoes for Seamus said, Brett's hair is self-care. Hannah Claire, love your eyes. Hi, Mary.
He really does switch off depending on the day with who just gets the high.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Always keeps us on our toes.
Keeps us on our toes. And I barely have any hair today, though I did mention the other day that I'm never shaving my head again because I look like my brother when I shave my head. And I never thought, like, people would say we looked like each other growing up, and I never saw it. And then one day, it just appeared, and it was extremely unnerving. No, thank you.
Shards of Narcil said, by the way, Brett, if you want to watch Heroes past season 1, skip season 2. It was during the writing strike, and it's horrible.
Yeah, he's right, because Heroes started in 2006, and the writer's strike of 2007 was particularly rough on the entertainment industry. Look no further than Transformers the second Transformers movie as a perfect example, as well as James Bond, Quantum of Solace, both written during writer's strikes. Very clearly movies that like needed heavy rewrites, but they're just like,
did the writer's strike ever accomplish what it wanted to accomplish? I never.
I'm assuming
No,
that
it
if
just
they
kind of ended. They ran out of money.
Yeah,
and they're like, going back to work.
Cool.
But
I don't know. Please don't come for me, writers.
But also, the funny thing about it is he's saying that season 2 is really bad. I just started episode 1 of season 2. First of all, I got major, like they pulled from so many different sci-fi genres with how they finished season 1. But as soon as season 2 started, and they have a samurai, a Japanese samurai played by the extremely white David Anders, who's really good. He's an amazing actor. He was in iZombie. He's been in all sorts of things. He plays basically like a European warrior in Japan with Mazioka's character of Hiro. I'm already loving it, but I'm sure it gets worse. I'm only like halfway through the first episode. I fell asleep.
Bjorg with Pipe said, "Did people eat whales that beached themselves in the olden days?" Probably not.
What was the question?
Did people eat whales that beached themselves in the olden days? That seems unsafe.
What's the olden days? Because like Connecticut had a huge whaling company or like whaling industry. So the blubber was used for oil. They eat the meat. They use the skin, stuff like that. I don't know if it's
only if
specific.
it's fresh.
I don't know if that's true though. I feel like if you're a fisherman and a whale, because like they beach themselves, but they take a while to die. Like they lay there and die. It's like very sad.
I love it. The chat is now discussing Baby It's Cold Outside. We have
We're debating
whales.
We have
Give us your
incited
takes.
debate.
Give us your takes about why Baby It's Cold Outside is actually our word culture.
We should have a whole pop culture Christmas music roundup episode.
Pop culture Christmas. I love that.
Why is it? Is it because he tries to convince her that it's okay to stay because she has an excuse?
And she said he has this line where he's like, "Stay here," and she's like, "Say what's in this drink?" And people are like, "He roofied her."
It's the best because women love when men make excuses for them.
Yeah.
It's their favorite activity.
Yeah. I get it.
Women love plausible deniability. That's what the song is about.
Well, and remember, as I say, like women are generally allergic to any type of responsibility or taking responsibility.
That's what the song is about. That's why everyone loves it.
I also want to point out that for stuff like this, whenever I see these debates online and then I hear people arguing about how rough it is to live here, I'm like, you're arguing about like a song from the 1940s and the meaning of it. Your life isn't that bad. You're fine.
Yeah.
Well, they mean they don't like living in the 1940s. They're generally opposed to it.
Well, I'm just
They're
saying.
psychoanalyzing a Christmas song.
The most irrelevant argument is we are not in the 1940s.
People complaining about living in in the 21st century America, but then don't realize that they just have it that good now. It's fine.
I mean, they have it comfortable.
Yes.
I would say
not good, but
good.
comfortable. Not good,
Yeah.
but comfortable. Fair enough. One more, and then we'll.
Okay. Indifferent app said, "I love JK.
I do love
Are you
it.
only going to say very strong statements of love or hate when you're called indifferent app?"
I kind of love it.
Is this person new?
All right.
What is the logic here?
we will find out. All right, guys, we're moving on. So we've got Howard Stern. He had spoken up about what happened about his opinions on Kirstie Alley and the passing of Kirstie Alley. It says Howard Stern floats anti-vax theory over Kirstie Alley's death. Maybe she didn't go to the doctor soon
Howard
enough.
Stern is always just going off about something.
He really
I
does.
find him very annoying. Here's exactly what he said about Kirstie Alley. She died on Monday of colon cancer, and he just pulled this
Rest
theory
in
out of
peace.
his ass. He said, "What freaked me out
Is that a
about..."
pun? She died of colon cancer and he pulled this out of his ass?
Yes. What freaked me out about Kirstie Alley is that she's 71, and I know to some people that's old, but to me that's young, and they're saying it was a sudden kind of cancer. Maybe this was a theory this morning we were all discussing. Maybe she didn't go to the doctor soon enough when she wasn't feeling well, but that's a story made up by us. I mean, there's no facts behind it. And Kirstie Alley is known for having, said things critical of the vaccine. In October 21, she said, "Get the vaccines and boosters. I don't care. But until they can prevent me from getting COVID or prevent you from getting it, I won't be getting it and will ignore mandates to get it. Seems fair to me." That's a pretty measured response. And Howard Stern is known for being extreme about like COVID fear mongering.
I also want to point out that this is like the future of any shock jock who who
yeah,
has
like,
hot takes when they're younger and just turns into a crotchety old man when they're older.
Yeah, he's completely like forfeited his brand that he's this off the wall, shock jock, politically incorrect, anti-establishment. He's totally given that up in favor of basically being the same as Mark Ruffalo, as George Takei, as Rob Reiner. All of these people are the same. They all are just one big hive mind.
I also want to point out that one of the things that he seems to ignore in this relatively hot take is that you couldn't go to a doctor for regular stuff early on in COVID. People weren't getting cancer treatments because they couldn't go to doctors on a regular basis, right?
People have also, since things have died down, been denied organ transplants or the ability to donate organs because of their vaccination status, which is crazy. I think that mostly this is just grotesque that he's even commenting on what her cause of death was instead of just saying RIP and moving on. Other people were criticizing her after her death for having supported Trump, which is just, again, it's grotesque to point that out about anyone when their body isn't even cold yet. It's extremely tacky and gross.
Well, it's also, I can give him the benefit of the doubt in this way. They have the same birthday apparently.
So he's jealous of her.
So and she was apparently
he has the birthday now. Am I right?
She was apparently she was one of the better guests on that show. And maybe the idea here is that maybe they had somewhat of a friendship back in the day. And the problem is he's a front-facing personality, right? So he's working through something that is both public and private at the same time in public.
Well, Brett, I understand that you're a contrarian, but I don't want to give Howard Stern the benefit of the doubt here.
I'm not trying to be contrary. I'm
we know that he's an absolute nut when it comes to all of this COVID stuff. He is extremely enthusiastic about the vaccine, to say the least. And then other people were commenting on her relationship with Scientology. So Kirstie Alley was a Scientologist. One of the commenters on this said, "I suspect Scientology is to blame. Scientology despises the medical profession and espouses mind over matter when it comes to physical and mental health. Both Kirstie Alley, who had colon cancer, and Kelly Preston, who had breast cancer, were members of Scientology. They were diagnosed in the late stages of cancer. Both died from diseases that are eminently treatable and or curable when diagnosed early. So you can't help but wonder
if she wasn't getting screened because of her religious beliefs.
What if Scientology is the world's largest Trump-supporting religion, and that is the only way to cancel Scientology?
Then where is Tom Cruise in all of this?
Then they'll come out and be against Scientology, which I believe is very much a cult. And I know Brett is a Scientology apologist.
It is a cult, and maybe there is a valid.
I told you that would happen.
It's a valid concern that we should be able to talk openly about the influence of Scientology in Hollywood, especially, but maybe not do that by invoking Kirstie Alley's name just in the hours and the days after she died. I think that that's sleazy, especially if you're a public figure doing that. So another person who commented is Leah Remini, or is it Leia?
It's Leah Remini, I think.
Remini. She's also a former Scientologist. She left the Church of Scientology in 2013. And she actually went on Howard Stern's show in 2015. And she's denounced Scientology very strongly since then. She claimed that her and Kirstie Alley were not allowed to interact if they crossed paths because she had been shunned by the Church of Scientology. And Kirstie Alley is publicly disagreed with and bashed Leah Remini and she's called her a bigot because of the things that she said about Scientologists. So here's what Remini said to the Rolling Stone recently after Kirstie Alley's death. While it has been reported that Kirstie sought conventional cancer treatment, which gave her a fighting chance, the majority of Scientologists don't seek treatment until it's too late. Scientologists are convinced they can cure themselves of diseases like cancer. It's one of the more sinister things they promise, and because Scientology claims to be an exact science, not a faith, its members are brainwashed into believing these false claims as guarantees. So, I mean, possibly, but what's the value in speculating when it's an individual?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like you said, to me, it's more about how quickly they did it and the lack of tact behind it, especially if you're somebody who knew them, even moderately well. It should give you pause.
The stuff about her being MAGA was just like completely beyond the pale. Like that shouldn't matter. Discussed.
It shouldn't matter.
It's worth noting that like when people die suddenly, people who are against the vax are quick to be like, oh, interesting, did you get the vaccine?
Yeah.
So it happens on both sides, so we can't really have the decorum argument,
even I've made like it was probably safe.
Well, it's different though, because like, are you going on this show or are you going on, IRL and like saying this person died today, I think it's because they had this medical treatment and blah blah blah, or I think it's because of their religion which says this and that. Like, it's different when you're talking about it in generalities versus an individual, especially if you personally knew them. Another thing is like these tweets where people are like, R.I.P. Kirstie Alley, I didn't agree with everything she said, but she was a great actress and whatever. Like, no one reading your tweet that says R.I.P. is assuming that you agree with everything that dead person has ever said.
Yep.
Like, no one assumes that just because you say rest in peace, you stand with every decision and every opinion this person has ever made. That's ridiculous. They're just virtue signaling.
That only works if like the point of that comment is to say like we sparred on occasion and we fought, but we got along, despite the fact that we didn't see eye to eye in a lot of things. If that was like a main part of a personal relationship you had with someone, that makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't really.
But if you didn't know this person, it's just like, why do you feel the need to point that out?
Also, I want to say like when is the right time? Like, this is something that you just have to learn like in as an adult.
But
like,
celebrities have no knowledge of how to interact socially. They're extremely maladjusted people, so of course they don't know that.
So when would it have been fair? Like, maybe she comes back up in the news 6 months from now because of something to do with her her estate comes out of probate or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when is it fair to at least talk about this stuff again? I mean, I think it's ghoulish either way, but
I mean, the other argument is that like it's not ghoulish and you're allowed to speculate it about cause of death or whatever from the beginning, which people do all the time, right? When Aaron Carter died, people speculated about what the cause was. I think generally Howard Stern is just like someone who rubs a lot of people the wrong way. The Raps headline that says maybe she didn't go to the doctor soon enough seems more like a jab at Scientology than it does on like the whole vaccine front. But I don't know. It's sad that she's gone because the loss of life is tragic, but also, it's not like her family is going to come out either way and tell us,
But it also
anything
feels like
more than they have.
One of these things where it's like there's no escaping it, like from anybody. If this is going to happen with Kirstie Alley, it's going to happen with any celebrity of any mild amount of note, and you're kind of trapped in this world now where even the most unimportant of person, I'm not saying that about her, but I'm saying like even the most banal of personalities will be dragged by someone for some reason when they die because somebody disagreed with something they said on Twitter 10 years prior. This is
another reason like I feel uncomfortable about dead people's social media accounts remaining up, and maybe they should all have a memorialized status like on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook has that.
So that people can't use it like Kathy Griffin did on her own dead mother's Twitter account, like using it to troll Elon Musk and failing and just looking like an absolute freak.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like when Kirstie Alley's family posted their announcement, like it was phrased like, my mother has passed away. So people who didn't look down to the end where it says her kid's name were like, why is she telling us about her mom? It's actually her. Like, there is some strange. On the other hand, like, her kids aren't famous in the way she was, so if you're a fan of hers, like, you would look to her Twitter account first. Like, I don't know that our sense of decorum or understanding of what the proper etiquette is when announcing one's death has caught up to the social media era, and I don't know.
Change.
I will over time for sure.
What is considered acceptable will change over time as we figure out what to do with our social medias as we pass. What's going to happen like? So it's like when you have like one of those like either you're a boomer, a set of boomer old people, or you're a guy or a girl who has cheated and stayed with the person where you have joint accounts, what happens if one of the people in the joint account dies? Do you just like casually remove one of the names from the joint account?
I don't know. I've had some high school classmates who have passed and their parents had to like figure out how to get into their Facebooks and stuff like that because they didn't want them to like accidentally get hacked or like for their photos to be used for a catfish or stuff like that. And like, you know, in that sense, like kind of a terrible chore to do after you lose someone.
Then let me ask you guys this. What do you want to happen to your social media when and if you pass? Maybe you live forever. Who knows?
Gosh, I don't know.
What's your plan? I haven't thought about it.
I kind of want to post like leave like funny messages for like
Brett,
like
schedule posts for
like
the future.
Well, no, like
you're gonna put it in all of your drafts
in the drafts. Yeah, like leave leave like roast notes for my brother in the draft, since that's how me and him communicate usually.
I like that your plan is that your older brother is going to outlive you.
Probably. Very
so dark today. It's so dark.
Very likely. But like the point is like, you know, or like, you know, assuming one day if I have kids, you leave something nice to your kids in the social media sphere. I don't know.
That's kind of a nice way to make sure like you always have said something nice to them at the end, right? Like people talk about like finding notes from their loved ones or like hearing a voicemail
finding
like,
a book
that's left before the person dies, and it's like, oh, I just really like you.
Finding out your mom bought a book called What Happens When Your Grown Children Disappoint Them.
Welcome to Therapy Crisis with Brett.
But like or like
Identity crisis.
Yes, there we go. I'm just
all I know is I don't want people logging into my account and posting anything. I don't want to be Chadwick Boseman, please, especially if it's for advertising a product that I was not a part of. That's scary. I don't want to be I don't want to get my image fed into AI engines. I don't want any of that stuff. I think it's just tasteless, and like Howard Stern is tasteless. He's known for being that way. He's known for looking for all of these opportunities to say incendiary things and talk shit, and he's obviously ignorant and likes to fearmonger, and he's not cool anymore, so he's bitter about that. And someone said if he weren't so damn insecure, he'd actually follow through on his regular threats to retire and quit finally, and we'd all be better off for it.
Yeah.
But I think broken clock can be right twice a day, and he recently called Prince Harry and Meghan Markle whiny bitches.
Well,
and I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yep. So
there's a silver lining.
Well,
from
you know,
Howard Stern.
You shoot enough, you're gonna hit at least a few baskets if you shoot enough times throughout the day. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But to me, it's just one of those things that I am more interested in, like what happens with because your social media life is now becoming more of who you are for a lot of people than your actual physical existence. There's whole swaths of people that seem to be more connected to who they are digitally than who they are in the physical world.
Which is why we should take Pop Culture Crisis to the radio waves.
That
would go great.
That would
Would you guys follow us to the radio?
That's I was like, that's like when this show started, I was like, well, I've got a face for radio, so that's perfect. It's but like I do wonder about that stuff, because I have friends and I know people just through like the skating community and just people in general who are very, very connected to their social media platforms, whether it's because they built a business on there or they built their own platform and they engage heavily with other people. Like what that might become more important to a lot of them if they don't see a lot of people, or they feel less important in the real world than they do digitally. Then you might be more worried about how you come off, how your profiles come off after you pass and stuff like that.
I just don't like the idea of leaving something like that out there to be taken. Like, how many times have people, suddenly sent you a message about like, you can get these cool sunglasses, and it's obviously like they've been hacked. Like, I hate the idea of like my hacked profile hanging around after I'm gone, and
selling people sunglasses,
or giving them viruses, being used for nefarious purposes, or like having to be something that like your descendants have to take care of, like
fun.
They should just get like, ultimately they should all get deleted because they're liabilities and could become bots, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
if I become like what is the headphones that they're always selling online? The Beats? Not Beats. They're
the Raycon?
If I end up like posthumously selling Raycon headphones, may God have mercy on my soul if that's where I end up. So just saying. All right, let's go to some super chats.
I need to stop watching YouTube said 20 years ago, even Obama was against gay marriage. Gay marriage was not legal in a single country until 2000. Now it's legal in nearly half. Coinky dink?
Is it a quinky dink?
If it's not a coinky dink, then I don't know what exactly you're implying.
Doinka quink?
But, yeah. Potatoes for Seamus said, hashtag Brett Lives Matter, hashtag Brett Man is King, hashtag Fear Brett. Hail potato?
Hail potato. And don't fear me. Fearing me would be ill-advised. That makes no sense.
Trust me, says Brett.
Trust me.
Nothing to be afraid of. Johnny Derp said, people in Scotland get punched. Who knew?
You know, the funny thing is Scotland and Ireland are both the places that I would like to go if I was to.
They're cool places to visit.
If I was to blow this popsicle stand and get the hell out of here.
Blow this popsicle stand.
I would want to go to.
Haven't heard that in a while.
Thank you. Either Ireland or Scotland.
Let's blow this popsicle stand.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, I think they're cool to visit, but maybe not to live there permanently unless you're as rich as J.K. Rowling.
So like New York, fun to visit,
Kinda.
horrible to
yeah.
live. Yeah,
I think that at least. Yeah. Tacti Platy said, Hannah Claire, article of dictionary changing the definition of woman.
Woman and man, yeah.
Did you write that today?
Yeah, Cambridge Dictionary has changed the definition of man and woman.
What does it say?
It says that it's a female, like a woman is a female human being, or also someone who identifies as female even if they weren't originally born.
So they just added the second definition to the already
so all dictionary websites like offer 1, 2, 3, 4 definitions, but they also updated the like example sentences that go with it to be like, Mary is a woman who was born a female or born male at birth or whatever. I don't
ever notice how colloquial definitions never go both ways? Like a band changing their name because the term slave couldn't possibly mean they were a slave to their career or a slave to anything else other than the slavery of just the only one that matters, which is, what happened here in America rather than all of the slaveries that have happened throughout every culture throughout history.
I just don't think we should cede language, right? Like, don't trust these dictionaries. Don't use them anymore.
Long before I came here to work, that seemed to be my number one takeaway from all of this, is that everything that we're going through is from obfuscation of facts and truth via language, right? Like, you can never know when you're arguing with someone, especially on topics like this, whether you're even arguing about the same points, because you have no idea if you are on agreed upon definitions of the same very, very important key phrases.
Well, and I would go one step further and say that a lot of people will try and use the language of certain groups to try and reason with them, but by using their language, you are affirming their thesis from the beginning. So you can't do that either. Like,
that's evil.
I think, and it's easy for me to say, like, the conservatives do this most. I'm sure it happens on both sides to some degree, but most frequently it's conservative people in a conservative position ceding language to the left.
Oh, always.
And therefore being wrong. Like, they should stop doing that immediately.
Big Dave sent us 99 cents without a message, as usual.
Strong, silent
Thank
type.
you.
Big Dave, you are the man.
Nathan Koss said, did you guys see the UNICEF Vax commercial?
Dude.
Did you?
Nope.
I didn't. I have a friend, like my friend who's going through the world's fastest red pilling. Now he's posting every time that Pfizer posts, like, or the government says, have you gotten your booster shot yet? He's like, he posts it and says, wow, do they have like an end of year quota? Because they keep posting like government updates on like, have you gotten it yet?
Is it that they have an end of year quota, or is that they already bought millions of doses and that it's just a waste of money and they'll expire?
They don't just want them sitting in a. We were talking the other day about how like maybe the most dystopian thing right now is like government sponsored memetics. Like, Pfizer memes are the road to hell. Like, the road to hell is paved in like Pfizer memes.
And Pfizer Marvel comics.
You're not boosted? Like, bite me. Like,
also rocks. Like, you're from the government. That's a psyop.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Dash Fortune said, best thing to come out of the writer's strike was Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog by Joss Whedon.
Oh yeah, I remember that being popular.
Well, Joss Whedon gets it right every once in a while. Though I will admit that I have a very big weak spot for Dollhouse, which had some fantastic science fiction concepts that they never really got to, and would have kind of come into transhumanism if they had gotten to fill out their 5-year plan for that show. But the idea of being able to like upload the entirety of your consciousness to a computer and then just download it into a new body. Like, that's a great concept that just was...
Some people think it's not a concept. Some people think that it's going to happen in our lifetimes.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing about it is in the show, one of the prevailing themes is like once it's done, right, and they're getting towards... They had to rush the ending because it only got to like 2 seasons. It was supposed to go to 5. The idea that they come through at the end is like, you can't uncreate something. It can't be uninvented. So now that it's out there, it's out there. There's nothing that can be done about that. And there's some great exploration of that concept, like in the last couple of episodes. And it's a bummer, too, because it was at a time where 2009, you had room there where they weren't going to get bogged down in politics or overt progressivism. The hero of the show is a strong, independent woman that don't need no man, and it's extremely well done. And it's a bummer to see that those shows are mainly not going to happen anymore because they won't be left alone. I think that's what's funny about it. It's like we talk a lot about how you have to go out of your way to find the shows that don't get we talk about Breaking Bad, and I've talked about how Better Call Saul, they escape it by being relevant, but not so relevant that the culture feels it needs to take it, like the culture war needs to take it for its own. And shows like that, like a Dollhouse, will never be left alone anymore because they're just seen as too important because they're part of sci-fi, and sci-fi is how you influence the youth. So.
Waffle Sensei said, I just wanted Mary to say Simon Says, smash the like button, and now I have Brett attempting to unmask and dox me. SMH, bro. I didn't realize that. Am I stupid?
Well, but it showed
a valiant effort, but it didn't work, sir.
So the name change showed up on your side, but not on my side.
Maybe you just read it wrong.
So I'm dumb.
So, but it was Waffle Sensei. It's Waffle Sensei here, but it's Simon at the very top. Maybe it just...
It doesn't say Simon on mine.
Maybe he changed his name on his profile.
No, I'm saying like I can't see. It doesn't. All it says is Smiggity smash the like button. I don't see anything else on there in the message section.
Okay.
On my side.
I don't know.
So. Sorry, Waffles.
Potatoes.
So, is that a confirmation that his first name is Simon?
It's not Simon.
It's not, apparently. Potatoes for Seamus said, Mary, it's cold outside. Please help Bad App.
Why does he need help?
I don't understand this.
By the way, Bad App, where you at? We haven't seen you today.
He's in different app today.
Oh, there it is. I see it now.
There's good app. There's bad app. There's good app, and there's indifferent app, and they all claim that it's somebody else.
Is there ambivalent app as well? I would like ambivalent app.
Chaotic neutral app.
What is kind of indifferent?
Okay, kind
app
of indifferent app. Is
that
better? Mary said, if Mary and Hannah Claire got in a fight, who would win? Who would fight more dirty? I think that Hannah Claire would have an edge because she is taller and probably stronger, probably has longer limbs. So that's one advantage she has. But I think I'm crazier. Maybe
scrappier.
I would get scrappier.
No, it's hard to say, honestly. Also, like, women don't fight like that.
Not really.
Like, if it was like a psychological war, who would win? Like, I don't know. It would be dangerous.
There's only one way to know. We get in the ring.
Well,
Timcast boxing
matches. The physical
matches.
ring or the psychological ring?
40 crisis parties, guys. You heard it here first. Boxing match between Hannah Claire and Mary.
Stop trying
40. 40 is not high enough.
We need to keep a board going because I'm pretty sure I've auctioned off 40 to be something else.
We'll have to work on this.
I don't even remember anymore. Bleaching your hair?
Yeah, but I'm not. I said I won't do like a weird progressive color.
Someone wanted a bowl cut.
I said no.
Brett.
I said no. There's
no
horrific
amount of crisis parties.
There's horrific pictures of me as a child with a bowl cut.
We also want stuff that happens like that we can pretty quickly enact and have gratification on. Like bleaching Brett's hair took one afternoon, and you guys got to enjoy it right away.
And imagine how many Fast and the Furious movies could be done right now if you had just done them all in one afternoon.
No one volunteered to cater that terrible, terrible watch party for me.
All right, guys, we're going to hold off on the rest. We will come back to the Super Chats. We are moving on. So Matthew Marsden, he is an actor. He was in Reacher. He actually plays Reacher's father in the show, obviously in flashbacks because him and I don't know how far apart him and Alan Ritchson are in age, but they're not that far apart.
Have you seen him in other things? I know he was in Rambo.
Yeah. I remember him from an episode of CSI. I saw a screenshot of it, and I remember that episode specifically.
Just that.
Yeah, that episode, that character. So basically, he's going off on COVID restrictions that are still affecting Hollywood.
Well, he's extremely outspoken on Twitter, and that's how I knew of him, actually. But he started talking about this in more detail because he was denied a job recently for his vaccination status. He is not vaccinated. So here's his tweet. One of the reasons I spoke out on Twitter is because I saw that people felt like they didn't have a say. I'm aware of the risks involved, and I appreciate the DMs supporting me. I lost a job last week because I am unvaccinated, and I will not lie about it. If more people stood up in Hollywood or any other profession and said no, then these vaccine mandates would have gone away. It's the same on Twitter. The trolls know they can push you around. It's never going to end. No one forces you to post politically. Your choice. So I think it's cool that he points out, if you're a celebrity, if you have a platform and you want to post about politics, whether you are on the right or the left, it's ultimately your choice. You can be silent on it if you want.
I mean,
also think about it from a Gina Carano's perspective. It feels like you're getting compelled to say certain things.
Also, she's going off right now on Twitter supporting him.
Yeah,
on Twitter. But what's
it'd be cool to see them do something together.
It's also, what's funny about this is other than the fact that I post memes from the Babylon Bee, I try to post stuff that's almost entirely apolitical because I find the political stuff is boring. As far as there's nothing. I've come to really hate when you read articles that have nothing to do with politics, and then somebody just says thanks Biden, or they, it was the same thing.
I'm gonna start saying that to you all the time.
Well, it's just boring. It falls flat, and that's not actual humor.
No,
it's not clever. It doesn't take any effort to just throw things out there like that.
And it just ends up in everything, in articles that have nothing to do with it. And what I found here with actors like this is he didn't have to. I appreciate that he did, but what I find really funny is that Hollywood is an industry of intense conformity, meaning that this is long before vaccination status was a thing. I also love how that's becoming a thing where it's it is becoming the scarlet letter A.
What's your status? Yeah. Everyone has one.
It's also funny because it's probably the same industry where tons of people were I'm not going to boycott my kids against the measles or whatever. And now they're but the COVID
Or it used to be all crunchy like that.
Granola.
And then they flipped on a dime.
Well, yeah.
Immediately. I'm sure Gwyneth Paltrow has had every booster.
So it's, like you said, the hardest part about this is that everyone has to stand up, and that's very easy for the actors with a lot of extra income, homes, multiple homes. They've made a lot of money in their time. It's very easy for them to stand on principle. It's very hard for somebody who is a working, episode to episode guest star on television shows who doesn't know where the next paycheck is going to come from, or even more so, the crew who don't live extravagant lifestyles
who are more replaceable than the people who go on screen
and are subject to the same unionization rules that are stifling their ability to have any type of freedom in this market.
Even after the Screen Actors Guild president has spoken out against these mandates, which we've already covered, this is somehow still going on in Hollywood. You're getting ousted from getting a job in this industry.
Yeah, but the Screen Actors Guild's president is Julia, what's her face?
Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher, who could have spoken out earlier, right? She spoke out a year and a half into it. She
had only been president for less than a year, a year by the time she did.
Yeah, and she was using the occasion of Disney Studios in the U.S. ending their mandates to comment on it. And given that even Disney has capitulated on this issue, it's so late in the game. We're almost in 2023, and
they're still
they're still playing this game. People are still losing livelihood off of this.
Look, this is a similar argument to what we hear about conservatives in Hollywood, right? Marsden saying that if more people would just be honest about the fact that they are not vaccinated, which you can infer means that there are people who are working in the industry who are lying, who maybe have false vax cards, whatever. They are faking being vaccinated because they actually didn't want to, and they're lying about it. When if they presented as a united front, they would have more sway.
We are past the age of united fronts, guys.
This is similar to the arguments that we hear about people who are Christian. They behind closed doors, they're actors who are very devout, but publicly they won't be honest about their faith or the way they vote. There are actors who are conservative who won't be honest about it. Like, this is the same cowardice, and what it tells you is this is a completely dominated industry, right?
Yes.
Like,
Long
it's
before
an
COVID.
occupied state. So in some ways, I know you guys already mentioned Gina Carano, like, what I think is going to happen is that you're just going to see the film industry break off.
Yeah,
and I've said this
it's already happening.
Right. I think that's going to become more and more prevalent because they are boxing out people who literally can't work there because they're not vaccinated. So, of course, you'll have a surplus of not just actors, but to your point, cameramen, sound stage people, set designers, whatever, who have the talent and the skills and the credentials, who are now looking for work. This is the opportunity for another, I mean, I know Daily Caller or Daily Wire does this, but like another industry to be built up.
Here's my
because
problem.
you mentioned that the Daily Wire, I wanted to read what Gina Carano said in response to Matthew Marsden. She said, "They're trying to make the people who did not conform suffer as much as possible while everyone knows it's wrong but remains silent. I deeply admire the people who won't resort to a fake vaccine card or hide behind a special privilege while the rest of us sacrifice it all." And she has this whole thread going off about this issue. But it's an interesting question about the ethics of faking your vaccination status in order to get a job. Maybe if that is your means of survival, you can justify that ethically. And
it's very easy for people with wealth, income, and the cushy extra income to say that. It's
this reminded me
harder.
Of like Letitia Wright, which this whole situation of Letitia Wright talking about mandates was kind of memory hold before Wakanda Forever came out. But she did speak out against these mandates. She did not want to get the vaccine. We never got a yes or a no answer on whether she did end up capitulating to them. And I can't help but wonder, did Letitia Wright fake her vaccine status to continue filming Wakanda Forever?
I think they would have made a big deal
when you're
about
at that level, when you are now ascended to an A-lister status, as she has been, you can kind of get away with that.
Well, yeah. Plus, it's like with Wednesday Addams and just filming. They film the scene because they have to, because there's literally so much money riding on.
Yeah,
this
well,
thing
Jenna
getting
Ortega
done.
is COVID positive.
Yes. So with Letitia Wright, you fake it because look, we've made this movie's costing us $250 million. Every time she misses a day of work, we are out hundreds of thousands of dollars. We cannot afford to do that. I want to go through a little bit here with what Fran Drescher said, because remember, guys, we are going into 2023 and they're surveying members about industry COVID vaccination mandates. And like you said, I'm kind of with you here, Anna Claire. Like, she's very clearly trying to play the political middle line here, where she supports the idea of these people not having to have these requirements, but at the same time she's like, but I'm going to leave it to a survey. So she says, the survey here also asks how familiar members are with SAG-AFTRA's development of COVID-19 safety protocols and policies that they have created a safer workplace during a global pandemic. Fran Drescher has asked for the survey in the current issue of the SAG-AFTRA magazine. She wrote, "I continue to fight on behalf of our members who feel discriminated against because of COVID, unvaccinated, or unboosted status, which is keeping them from working in major studio productions. For those members not being fairly considered by studios with regards to their religious or health exemptions, help is on the way. As a result of this lingering policy, many performers have lost their representation, their medical benefits, and their livelihoods. We want to take the pulse of the entire member body on this issue and many more, so watch for the National SAG-AFTRA survey and answer all the questions to help our national board represent you. Help us decide whether you should or should not allow your fellow actors, actresses, and members of the crew to just lose their livelihood, lose their medical insurance, and lose everything because they think differently than you about a medical procedure which is supposed to be inherently, as it has always been before, between you and a doctor. Not between you and an actors guild, not between you and a producer, not between you and the people who pay you your paychecks, you and a medical professional." So it's like she wants to seem like she's supporting them, while at the same time being like, hey, what am I supposed to do? I'm just leaving it up to them.
Yeah, which is why I think that consumers need to take the upper hand here, try to have as much control as they can. Yeah. That's why I wish, Matthew Marsden would reveal what production it was that told him he couldn't work on their set because of his vaccination status, so that audiences can take at least a little bit of control. And if they disagree with this, they can at least boycott and speak out against it, rather than it just being behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I think that there are other health and safety risks on Hollywood sets that are not talked about, that are hidden from public view and public discussion. Rampant drug use, alcohol abuse. There are minors and adults working in close proximity to each other. In some cases, getting choreographed to film intimate scenes with each other, getting scripted. There, as we've covered, girls under the age of 18 getting scripted into adult scenes with men decades older than them in House of the Dragon. There are mentally unstable and aggressive directors like David O. Russell who have been recorded assaulting production assistants. There are cases where stunt actors get killed or mistreated.
Yep.
Hollywood is just not willing to face the reckoning for their own sins, and they only want to point the finger at the outside.
And that will go on forever because, and to be fair, we're part of that problem because we still consume the media. We still are part of the problem.
We're always wrestling with that. Are we part of the problem?
We are.
Are we though?
I do like, there's plenty of stuff that I still watch that I don't talk about on reviews here that makes me part of the problem. I can freely admit that.
It's a occupational hazard for you guys because you have to pay for the tickets or the streaming service that condone certain behaviors to be able to do your job. On the other hand, if we only siloed ourselves into watching, content by certain companies, then you would be not a very topical or relevant pop culture show. So it's finding the balance, finding ways to engage with companies that have your values both in your capacity as professionals, but also as a consumer, while still not necessarily ostracizing yourself to the other side of the world.
I want to tell this one other story about an actor named Richard Burgi, he was on The Young and the Restless. He was on a bunch of different soap operas. And this is an old story, so it's not recent, but I want to point it out because of how ridiculous when you hear why he got fired, because it's not like he went unvaccinated. It says this. So it says, he says, I feel terrible about it, Berge said in his message. I still do. It bothers me mightily, but it is what it is. I respect whatever the show's decision is. They're doing their best, the best they can. We all are. And he explains here, he says, he tested positive for COVID around Christmas time and waited to return to set after 5 days, a time frame the Centers for Disease Control set at the end of December. The actor then tested twice negatively at the studio and showed up to work. He said, but was which was not within the show's guidelines, which was a 10-day protocol. So I inadvertently violated the show's COVID protocols. So he went in 5 days rather than 10, and they fired him.
5 days
he went in,
after getting infected?
After testing negative.
After testing negative?
He went in and they fired him because he didn't wait the extra 5 days. And imagine, think about this.
That's insane.
This is a dude who likely just loves his job. He's been an actor for I can think of 15 things he's been in. This dude's got money.
And this is so far from a political difference.
Yes.
It's insane that they would even read into it like it was his intent to disrespect.
The other part is had he been someone they decided was more valuable to their production, they would have let it slide, right?
Were they just looking, this sounds like they were looking for some excuse to boot him from the project anyway. And they were just even if they're not, you didn't go by the books here.
Or even if they're not looking to boot him specifically, they are willing to use him to virtue signal that they are complying, right?
Or scare other employees into compliance,
also,
with his
he is
example.
Disposable enough that they can be look, we are sticking by the protocol.
Also, we all know that now every time somebody references it back, the CDC is hey, that was just a recommendation. It's not our fault.
It was a recommendation, not a rule.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy thing.
Yeah, the crazy thing is all these protocols in Hollywood are privately enforced.
Yep, they have nothing.
You can get rid of them anytime you want.
I think the biggest wake up for me was like when I was coming back out here last year after we were in Austin, and I realized that all of the signs on the thank you. All of the signs that were at the airport, like on the walls, all had like Purell, sponsored by Purell on them. Like, how dystopian is that? Like, all of the things
Somebody stood to
like,
make money off the pandemic,
yes,
and if you don't recognize that, you're not unable to see why certain positions are still in effect, right? Like, who benefits from you staying home and wearing a mask and getting a vaccine? Well, the producers of the vaccines, whoever's producing the content that you're watching at home, and whoever is manufacturing the masks. Like, it's not that hard to follow. It's just that at a certain point, we're so numb to it that, like, we forget that actually Hollywood is still enforcing these mandates.
And they're lagging behind the rest of society.
Because nobody loves virtue signaling
also,
more than Hollywood.
It gives them an excuse to fire people they don't want
around,
right?
That's a huge part. Like, a huge part of it is like they just want reasons to get rid of people. Yeah. And it's that makeshift.
It's a way to flag anyone who won't comply with future mandates.
I mean, you said it yourself. Like, for Wednesday, it costs enough money to postpone production if she was sick with COVID, right? Yeah. So then the protocols didn't matter. Yeah. The protocols that are apparently life and death don't matter if we're going to lose money. Well, that's
but if Tim Burton's favorite actress is sick with COVID, she has to do the scene because we have deadlines, people.
Yes.
Like,
but if you're
selectively enforced.
But if you're extra number 2, kick rocks. Like you get Also, the other thing here is like we talked about, it's a racket. There's people there's COVID protocol enforcement officers, there's testing facilities, there's money
getting paid.
There's money to be made on this racket that will never go away. So I don't know if they get rid of it. I think they just keep it around.
And I see all of these people on Twitter who are out here defending the decisions, all of these tyrannical decisions of these giant mega corporations like Disney, like actually spewing hatred at the individuals who are falling victim to these mega corporations and then claiming to be anti-establishment.
Imagine thinking you're fighting the man.
Matthew Marsden posted a screenshot of a DM that was sent to him by an anonymous person with pronouns in bio, of course. They said, "Conservatives in entertainment aren't being canceled. They're just not talented. You're comparing a bunch of A-list actors to people who couldn't even make the D-list. Also, nobody wants to hire a racist, homophobic, conspiracy-spouting piece of S."
So what you're saying is they didn't want him there initially. But
so you're admitting that they were looking for an excuse to get rid of you and use your medical status as a way to do that.
And a lot of it is just these people are just really, really authoritarian and love the idea of even if it's just moral enforcement, meaning that they want to guilt you into complying to what they want through your own self-censorship.
Yeah, but like a lot of good authoritarian dictatorships, the rules don't apply to them, right? Yep. This person just sent in like, well, it shouldn't matter for A-list actors. Like, it should only matter for people who need the work more to be in their chosen profession, right?
Also, what do you have to say about what Marsden said? He says, men have been emasculated so much over the past few years. They have been taught that to stand up for something you believe in is toxic masculinity. It starts in school where boys are expected to behave like girls. Women have stepped up because they are protecting their kids. Even that is like, yes, they have, but not to the same. There's far more like COVID like obsessed women and men out there like that love the pandemic.
COVID really showed that women need healthy outlets for their neuroticism and desire for like maternal control,
sublimating.
And like this is not one of those outlets.
Nope. There was did you see did we talk about it on here, or did me and you just talk about it off air about the lady who was like, my son wanted to go to a birthday party and I had to say no. And
I saw that.
I had to say no because
it was an indoor play place. It's just not safe right now.
And here's the thing.
And the person who shared it was like, this was yesterday.
No, it was. And here's the thing. You read it and you just know that she did not feel bad saying no. She loved saying no. She embraced saying no, keeping her kids like neurotically close and not allowing them to like live, laugh, love, have fun, do anything.
Those are the people with the live, laugh, love signs in their house.
I'll go one step further and say, like, I would wager a guess that this mom also is telling her kid, no, we can't have your friends over for a birthday party because of the pandemic. Like, she is keeping this kid from integrating with his community and also preventing him from building community from his own.
Of course, Hollywood loves an excuse to not socially interact with anyone not of their class.
Normal.
Of course, they enjoy a way that they can isolate the elites from those below them.
Well, it's also like the people from each other, right? Like this woman took to Twitter immediately to say, like, I had to tell my son this thing. Like, that's your first way of dealing with this, right? Like, did you ask the other, I mean, like, maybe she did. I shouldn't, like, totally box her in here, but, like, did she ask the other parent, like, hey, can our kids play at a playground together in the open air because I'm afraid of COVID? Like, are you supporting your children or are you supporting the government agenda?
I just, it makes me feel sad for all of the people that are like, there's so much, like so many behaviors that are being born out of like fear now that will take years to beat, like to get out of your system, to no longer be part of your coping mechanism. Because let's face it, we don't hear people talk about it the same way they did before. In California, didn't they recently put mask protocols back in place in certain places? Like if you're there, you're just screwed, right? But there's a whole generation of kids that are going to be even worse at reading facial expressions now because they were masked during very, very important years in which you learn to read. You know, my theory is that the CIA invented emojis so that kids could have a really exaggerated example of what our emotions were so that they could learn what facial expressions were because they've been looking down at their phones for years. But it's like we're going to have years to undo that. And I think Hollywood in a way will have to answer it because they push so much for this stuff when they have no connection to the common person. So
let's go to Superchats.
Let's do that.
I feel like this is a real depressing episode.
It is.
The end of that topic did get depressing, but
slightly.
I think
Sorry, guys.
I
this
regret
news
nothing.
about R. Kelly is such
we haven't even gotten to the R. Kelly stuff yet.
That's the fun part. Big Dave said, regarding Kirstie Alley and when anyone ever passes, if the first thing you ask about them is their vax status, then you're, I think you mean just a bad person, in my opinion. Yeah. Thank you for speaking out, Big Dave. You don't do that often, so it must have really mattered to you.
Imagine like asking somebody that serious.
In person while
like,
being informed by someone who loved them.
You should be embarrassed if you asked that question.
Yeah. I mean, really, like all of the things we talk about in regard to celebrities, it's just secondhand embarrassment.
Yep.
Dash Fortune said, an AI based off of my chats and comments would be an AI troll. An idea worth exploring.
There you go.
Wyatt Caldenberg said, Frank... is it a Lesser? Wrote Baby It's Cold Outside in 1944 to his wife. It has nothing to do with a masher. It's about a husband not wanting his wife to leave him and stay with him.
I did not know that. I thought it was about...
But she says, like, my parents would be wondering where
maybe they're not married yet.
She doesn't live
like he wrote about it
there.
when they were courting.
Thank you.
It just like sparks so much
Pop
joy.
culture, Christmas.
Every time it's the Jingle Bells, it's just the best.
Now we need presents.
We'll
to
just keep
fall
it
from
forever.
The sky.
Well, I want you guys to put up like a Christmas tree or something. You should put like a wreath in the background of your thing, like.
I thought about maybe just putting like a mini. I have a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, like the little mini, like. But I broke the.
Should
bulb.
I like hang a like bauble from my mic
Ooh,
stand?
that's a good idea.
You broke the bulb?
I broke
That's
the bulb.
so Charlie
You could
Brown
get
of
another
you.
one.
I know. I was like gonna order one online, but I'm like, am I really gonna have like a poor Amazon driver have to drive all the way?
He's gonna be driving anyway,
to
Brett.
just deliver me one.
Amazon is gonna Amazon.
Bezos doesn't mind. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
Fair enough.
Tacti Plani said, "Big avocado pays the Pfizer memers."
That's probably true with all of the extra funds
what this
from
is all
the
about.
booming avocado industry.
Bobcat said, on a similar vein of TV shows that can't be made in modern culture, Dark Angel was awesome, not just because of Jessica Alba in a slinky dress.
I love that show. I go off on that show all the time on here. James Cameron's one foray into television, and there's actually some cringe scenes where Michael Weatherly's character of Logan Kale's wearing like a Che Guevara shirt, but he's like in a lot of the episodes she's played as like, because she's a genetically altered mutant, strong independent woman. She kind of makes fun of him because he's he's from a rich family and he just wants to make the world a better place, and he's a whistleblower. And she said only a bored, only a bored liberal white guy could feel guilty about being a bored liberal white guy. Like and this is
because you have time to think of a reason to feel bad about yourself.
Because in an episode, he's going to give away all his money to save one person who likely will never know or care why he did it, and she's like, there's a lot of she's like only a hippie, idealistic lefty like you, blah blah blah. She calls him that regularly on the show, and there's this real difference in their approaches to things because she's very pragmatic and he's very idealistic. And it's a very, very unique show that really most people just see hot Jessica Alba wearing leather and driving a motorcycle.
Don't you think?
But it's more than that.
But it's
deep.
more than that.
It's deep and meaningful.
That's just a benefit, says Brett.
Look, deep, maybe not. But there's a lot of it's a lot of it is about because it takes place in a dystopian future where basically the government in technology. What?
I believe you.
Where government and big tech basically have become one thing, right? And it's really, really good.
Dystopian future?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Dystopian current year.
Don't you think it kind of goes against traditional gender roles to make the woman character the pragmatic, sensible one, and the man the
Not
anymore. Not in Hollywood.
Not Hollywood, where that's what they believe the gender
But
norm
in
is.
2000, it was though. In 2000, that would have been
It's a
considered
different
more
time.
of a different time. So I don't know where you would have to go to find that now. I still have the DVDs that I have the DVDs.
That's
Physical
good though, because they're gonna
copies.
scrub
Yeah.
it from the internet. You have to have hard physical copies of things,
and they're
including
saying,
the dictionaries before they get changed.
Yes.
So I do recommend going and at least checking out. It's fun.
Potatoes for Seamus said, Hannah Claire, I'll give you a Fast and Furious watch party with a bunch of potato emojis.
What?
I don't know what this means. The Last of My Kind. Maybe they want you to stream it.
I very much consider doing just a weekend where I watch them back to back to back to back, but then I didn't because that sounds awful. But maybe
Sounds like a waste of a weekend.
I think it should be a business expense where someone orders a bunch of food. You guys can all come in rotation and hang out with me while I make it
Yeah.
through the rest of the movies because
Yeah.
I'm clearly never gonna get through them.
The Last of My Kind said, quick super chat prize. Brett takes a mustache pick. Would you ever have just a
He's
mustache?
so tempted and flattered.
For any amount of crisis parties?
No.
No?
No.
It's not even that big of an ask.
They're
You could shave it off literally the same day.
Yes.
You draw the line at mustache, but you
That's
bleach
crazy.
your hair.
John in the future says Brett is the type of guy that would say Playboy has some deep and meaningful articles.
Well, he reads it for the article.
Yes, well,
Of course, it's so intellectual.
It's very
intellectually stimulating.
It is.
Bad App said, you can't spell virus without you and I.
There you go.
Okay. Good App said, Mary, how do you know about Ambivalent App? He's been locked in the basement since birth.
Why would you keep him down there?
It was
That's
Brett
really
who
rude.
knew about it.
That was me. Yes.
Yeah.
2 more from Bad App.
Bad App said, I really can't stay. Baby, it's COVID outside. I've got to stay 6 feet away.
That's very good.
Did the government pay you to write that?
And he also said, can't spell quarantine without URAQT.
One more and
It's
then we
Pfizer
will.
sponsored Valentine's Day cards.
Okay. Corey Anderson said, can y'all get Corey Feldman on and talk about his Hollywood experience? Well, it's a dark one.
Yeah.
But,
but we're depressing
that would be
cats
cool,
today.
I guess.
Yeah.
Since we're so depressing, it wouldn't be much of a change.
All right, guys, we're going to hold off on the rest and we will come back. So, in an shockingly coincidental thing, R. Kelly is very upset about something being done to him without his consent. And
Wow, that's crazy.
That is
what a
crazy.
crazy twist.
That's crazy. So it says, so R. Kelly's new prison album, I Admit It, was pulled from Spotify.
You
and
heard that
iTunes.
right. It is titled I Admit It.
Yes.
If anything gave more OJ Simpson If I Did It vibes.
Yeah.
I would be shocked. I think that the people who got hashtag I Stand With R. Kelly trending on Twitter last week are thrilled about this news. They couldn't wait to get new music from R. Kelly. So it's disputed whether this album actually has tracks of R. Kelly's voice on it.
It sounds like in some of the lyrics, it sounds like him. In other parts of it, it doesn't sound like him. Now that could be because they're using pitch correction. Maybe it was done in his cell.
Or maybe he just has a new style of singing.
Or his voice
prison.
is damaged because prisons are really loud. People yell all the time. Like maybe his voice isn't the same.
The longest track on this 11-track album is 20 minutes long. Technically, it can separate into 3 parts, and it's the self-titled "I Admit It." Yep. I listened to the whole thing. I have no idea why.
Me and Mary.
Some of the lyrics were crazy. So this was originally recorded and posted on SoundCloud back in 2018. So it likely was him.
Yeah.
But there are other lyrics on other tracks of the album that some people think only could have been written after his prison sentence began. One person said that he gave an RIP message to Kevin Samuels.
That is not true.
I don't think that's true. All that line said was "peace to my homie Kevin," which could be about literally anyone who is named Kevin in the world.
There's more than one Kevin in the world.
No. Believe it or not, not all of them are Kevin Samuels. So some people are commenting on the YouTube video after this has been removed from Spotify and iTunes. They say, this is his voice, although he has said it's not, and this is his album, although he says it's not. I do believe that he did not release or authorize the release of the vocals or album. I also believe he denies any association with the production and release of the album for the simple fact that he didn't consent to its distribution and is not receiving any monetary compensation or ownership rights to the album.
He didn't consent.
Yeah, so Sony right now is like claiming that they don't own this music, which means that we can show you some clips of it.
Maybe
Hopefully.
it's just that the music is too young. Like this, I think this is so. What should we play first? Should we play the 12-second one?
Yeah. Let's play a couple of clips for you guys to get a sense for what this is about.
And like I said, I don't think we'll get copyright because nobody claims to own any of this.
No one wants it.
We'll have to. Maybe that's how we test.
We're playing hot potato with R. Kelly's album.
Loophole, right? You guys are like, finally, we can
play.
Yay! All right, so let's.
We have to stress no one is claiming this music.
Yes.
Well, if it does, we'll have an answer. It was saying it was released by a company called Real Talk Entertainment. So if Real Talk Entertainment claims this, we'll know.
Speak out.
You guys can make headlines because you get sued for copyright by whoever claims this. I will be amazed.
All right. Yeah, volume.
I admit I fuck with all the ladies. That's both older and young ladies. But tell me how they call it pedophile because of that shit. That's crazy. You make.
So there are a lot of other very on the nose lines in this track. Like he also says, "My lawyers made me settle, but I knew it was BS," and like it's just all of this other stuff.
Okay. So they're calling this R. Kelly's prison song. I'll admit it. And he is like, no, I didn't release it.
No, but now I have a statement from him.
But he's recording it in prison?
No, it was recorded before prison.
He went to prison.
But it's the meme that he is recording in
I
prison.
love the idea that he has like a mini. I watched a video the other day of a guy who like built a hibachi grill in his prison cell.
Oh yeah, like some people were tweeting, I have friends in prison who keep an active Instagram story. There's a possibility that he's recording
like,
in there.
No, my brother like FaceTimes me from prison, like shows me around. Or like there are prisons that like might be like, no, we do have a recording booth because it's part of our like rehabilitation program. Like I know Missouri is actually looking for someone to like, they want to hire a tattoo artist to teach people because you have to be an apprentice to become one. So you can like have a tattoo apprenticeship in prison.
So that they can
maybe
still
R.
get
Kelly
those,
is there teaching music producing.
Like they literally just get a tattoo artist because they're sick of people getting hepatitis. And in their prison cells.
This is, I mean, it's kind of interesting because it's like our cultural attitudes towards tattoos have changed so much that it's like that's actually a legitimate career that you could have when coming out of prison is the thought. But I digress. What else did R. Kelly?
He's not happy.
Here's
R. Kelly is not happy about this.
Here is his statement. He says he appears to have released a rare public statement from jail Tuesday, imploring people to just leave my music alone because it's all I have left. It's all my fans have left, and they deserve to be able to listen to the music despite what people try and say about me, what they think about me, or even do to me. The message read. So please,
it's not about him. It's about his fans.
Leave my music alone. He says. Maybe he means like because I'm not getting paid.
Yeah, all of the comments are like, I don't care if he approved this or not. I'm still going to listen to it because I love R. Kelly's music.
Apparently he can't read or write. I didn't know that.
I think that's more of an exaggeration because he has dyslexia and he made these lines about not being able to read teleprompters at the Grammy.
Well, but that would be legitimately
maybe that's what happened. Maybe he got the girls' ages mixed up. Maybe
he looked at
on their face.
They showed him a license and it said they were 16, but he just mixed it up.
61.
And she's 61. She just looks really young for 61.
Like, a lot of chicks in Hollywood got Botox. Real good for her age.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
Did you think that it was good music?
No,
I didn't think it was very good.
As much as I actually love like old school R&B, like 90s R&B, R. Kelly was not it for me. So this isn't really my thing. I thought he actually sounded more in some of that song. There's an artist named Party Next Door. And there was parts of it where maybe it's because of the auto tune or the pitch correction. He sounded like Party Next Door.
A lot of people thought he didn't sound like himself, but
hey man, it's rough in prison.
There's this one tweet that said, I'm not shocked R. Kelly dropped an album from jail. I have a friend who maintains an active Instagram from jail, but I'm shocked that he thought people wanted to hear more of his R-word culture music. Well, they're kind of assuming his intent here. It was not posted with permission.
And most of that song is him saying that he's not that. It's just supposed to be clever.
Another thing in the song was like he talked about the fact that he wrote away his rights to his own music and he is a broke legend because of it. Yeah. He like didn't read his contracts properly. So yeah, I think that's something that he like has openly talked about, and it probably pisses him off even more that not only has he been locked away, but now he can't even make royalties off of music that's being unauthorized.
I thought you couldn't make money from stuff, or maybe I'm getting me.
So like there's like rules about if you commit a homicide, right? You can't generate.
So that's why OJ couldn't make money off of If I Did It. No, because that wouldn't make sense because he didn't get prosecuted. So technically he didn't.
He could have come out and said like, I actually did it, guys. I actually murdered my wife. And he wouldn't have been called to court again. Like that wouldn't have been seen as evidence.
But he was prosecuted civilly. He was found guilty on civil charges, not on the murder charge.
I think so.
Yeah. So
I'd say I'm not super up to date on the R. Kelly goings on.
No, I'm talking about OJ.
Oh, yeah.
OJ was found guilty in the civil case, but not the. Yeah. So
it is weird to name the album "I Admit It."
Well,
I know it's supposed to be like clever.
Let's hear this out, okay? He is dyslexic. He struggles with writing his feelings, so maybe he's like, guys, I'm just gonna get in the sound booth and I'm gonna just rap it out for a minute, just express myself.
It gets really passionate.
Okay, and then that's being recorded, but he just means to do it as like an emotional exercise. He goes to jail and someone on his team is like, but we could still make money off of this. And you know what we could call it? Like, what if that is him, but he also didn't consent to it going out?
Yeah. Well, that's what they're saying, that like a company called Real Talk Entertainment. That
sounds like it.
And it's funny thing is whenever you hear about these cases with music labels, it's a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a subsidiary of a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth subsidiary. Like it's kind of like in skating, there's actually something similar where it's like there's multiple companies, but they're all offshoots of the same distribution company. Like there's a company called Gods, which is an offshoot of Power Slide, which also owns USD and a bunch of other skate companies. They're all essentially run by the same few companies in one.
Brett, pull up the other clip of the song.
The YouTube one.
Yeah.
We're starting this at 3:07. Are we ready? Here we go. How much are we playing of this?
Just like
as much as we can. When else are you gonna get copyright free music?
I don't say I don't respect these women when all I've done is represent. Take my career and turn it upside down, cause you're mad I've got some girlfriends. Hell with this record deal, it ain't worth this shit for real. Ain't seen my kids in years, they try and lock me up like Bill.
So he's really trying to
which kids is he talking
like
about?
He's the victim here. He also talks about his experience of getting molested by a family member during childhood, which is just like wild to put in a song when he's trying to like flip the narrative that he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, also like ain't seen my kids in years, like
which kids is he talking about?
Maybe you shouldn't be around any kids.
Was that like because that might be on you, buddy.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
I want to point out, maybe the idea here was like they had this ready to go and they just couldn't get a good album picture, but they found that Lensa like you said, the Lensa program. So now they're like, okay, we'll just make AI art.
The fake album cover looks like someone just took a picture of R. Kelly and put it into the Lensa app. Like, unironically, I think that's what they did.
That's just what they've been waiting for.
In response to this, a lot of people are posting this scene from the Boondocks where the character Huey goes off at this room full of people listening to R. Kelly's music.
Yep.
And he says if they want to help him, then they should give him counseling, find him some older women to date, and hide his camcorder from him. I thought that was hilarious. I like the Boondocks.
It's just, it boggles my mind because these are the type of people that, like, we talk about Chris Brown all the time, and you have to, like, there's levels of bad in the world, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you're telling me that Chris Brown did that to Rihanna and people forgave him, but you don't think that there's people that aren't delusional enough to forgive this guy because they just don't really comprehend how evil most of the stuff he did was, the stuff with Aaliyah, all of that.
Yeah,
like, just
well, I
awful.
also think that there are people that have a very strange relationship between, like, age of consent, right? And they'll be like, well, I don't know, like maybe there's some benefits, and you want to be like, please stop, you're grossing me out.
Well, what did Dave Chappelle say? It's like, how old is 15 anyways? In that bit, like, ridiculous. Have you ever heard of that dude from? I was just thinking about this the other day. There was a band from when I was like in high school called Lost Prophets. And the lead singer of Lost Prophets ended up being like a super ultra mega evil dude, like ultra evil. And he like not just a pedophile, but like multiple victims for like 15 years. And he's in jail right now for the rest of his life. And it's like, I remember like the and here's the crazy thing, that song, like they had a song, it was like what's it called? Last Train Home. Is still up on the record label's YouTube channel and drawing revenue. And like,
yeah, but he's not the only one in that band, to be fair.
No, but I'm saying like, likely they're not getting any of that. Likely the record label's keeping all of that. The band had to disband, and it's just evil, dude. Like, they leave that up there, and that record label's pulling money in from that. The comments are turned off, and then you go to other you look at other videos of them that are not on a direct YouTube channel, and the comments are like, well, I don't like the guy and I think he did horrible stuff, but man, does he make good music. You talk about separating art from artists. That is bonkers. Yeah,
why do people only fall on the two extremes of this issue? Either you're boycotting Harry Potter because J.K. Rowling opened a women's shelter, or you're posting hashtag I stand with R. Kelly. Can we just like calm down for a second and look at the facts of any of these situations? I mean, I think it's one thing to stream someone's music if you enjoy their music and they've done some heinous things. I think most of the celebrities that are in the movies I like or TV shows I like or make music that I like aren't good people. That's entirely another thing than just worshiping them as an individual and believing that they're flawless and blameless.
Yep. Also, it's like there's levels to it, right? Like not liking Mark Ruffalo's tweets and still being able to watch him as the Hulk
still being able to watch 13 going on 30 for us girlies out there
is vastly
a classic.
There you go. Women, am I right?
Yeah, right. You haven't seen it, okay?
You've never seen 13 going on 30? I think you would like it.
Well,
you like everything, right?
Mary has come to the conclusion that I just like literally everything. We come out of the theater, I'm like, yeah, I liked it. That's it.
You're not easily offended is the thing. Like, you're more likely to be like, it was okay.
Yeah.
It's fun. That's what he always says. It's fun.
It's like, they put a lot of effort into it. Good for them.
But that's what I think is going to happen when you walk out of Avatar 2.
No, you're
going to be like, I liked it.
When you crawl out because we've all died because it takes so long.
You lose the benefit of the doubt when you make me sit in the theater for 3 hours and 10 minutes. I'm way more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to make a whole thing
of 3 hours and 10 minutes. What about 15 hours while you watch Fast and the Furious?
Fair enough.
I'm suffering too, Brett.
Hey,
I'm just kidding. I'm not suffering. I love it.
So it is what it is. Like separating art from artists, it is kind of like you have to learn to figure out where your line is.
I can separate Avatar 2 from the fact that Jimmy Cameron was out here calling testosterone a toxin that needs to be purged from the body.
That is true. So I don't know. This is just one of those things where it's very hard to, like, because we talked about Chris Brown recently, not that long ago. We talked about him because he's still very popular, and musicians in general. I admit that I love a lot of rap artists who did a lot of, like, I love Tupac. I love Biggie. All had very, very bad, did things questionable when they were younger. A lot of
questionable. What a fun way to describe that.
A lot of the artists, Mike Tyson. We talked about Mike Tyson here several times.
Someone got mad at us because we pointed out the historical fact that he has been convicted of rape.
That's
in the past.
I remember that episode, and the person was like,
crazy?
"I won't watch this show anymore," and you're like, okay, but are you going to still listen to Mike Tyson? We just read a news article. He was convicted. I don't know. And it's
not speculation. It's not he said, she said.
It's confirmed. And then later he did a Law and Order SVU episode.
That is just, that is almost.
I'm telling crazy. You, don't worry. The society is rooting for him.
I like the idea that they offered him a role in regular Law and Order, and he said, no, I want to do SVU.
I only want SVU.
If I can remember the episode correctly, he was wrongly accused.
It's
dark, guys. I'm sorry to the one person we offended by pointing out the fact.
SVU fans as well.
I'm not. You guys have had a long run and the show's gone off the rails.
Dude, we didn't cover apparently the new showrunner is just awful.
It's been really bad for 10 seasons.
But I'm saying this guy's he used to be a producer on a show called Lie to Me with Tim Roth, which I loved. It's a super I rewatched it right before I came to work here, and it's, oh my God, the progressivism in the show is almost nauseating. But it was 2010, so it was less obvious than it is now. But I guess this guy was just evil to really rude to women, classically Hollywood evil, calling women toots and probably smacking them on the bottom. And and just a really bad dude, and they're complaining about the guy. Then one poor lady is who's well, I never had anything bad happen with him, but I don't want to invalidate what happened to anyone else. So her whole experience of working with the dude for a period of time means nothing because she doesn't want to get called what would you call that? An enabler.
An enabler or an apologist, R-word apologist.
Yeah. Even though she can't speak to the awful things that people are saying, her opinion means less because she's not going along with what they're saying. So, and they weren't calling him that. They were just saying the guy was kind of a scumbag, really rude to people on set, would kick people off set and fire people. Not criminal stuff, but just a bad guy.
I'm going to read a few super chats before we move on. Shimmy Shelley said, remember when NBA, NFL started looking the other way when COVID BS upset the sports betting industry?
Yeah, well, when there's money to be made, right?
Alex Making Beds and Yes Chairs also said, Brett, you from Minnesota? Is there any Finn in you? You are kind.
MI is Michigan.
Michigan.
But
sorry.
Are you deeply offended?
I'm from Minnesota. I am not Finnish. I am Croatian.
Why would they think that?
There's a huge Finnish population, a lot of Finnish immigrants, Scandinavian. One of the reasons that, I should let you say this, but I've heard from people who grew up in the Twin Cities that one of the reasons they have such a fantastic public transportation system is because it's based on Scandinavian countries.
I have no idea who the hell called the Minnesota public transportation system fantastic, but they don't know what the hell they're talking.
It's just
unless you've been on the light.
I heard it from a native. That's all I'm gonna say.
The light rail at midnight ain't it. I'm just saying.
But it has what they're saying is it has multiple stops and it runs throughout the city.
Jussie Smollett is that ain't it.
You do not want to be the last place
I'm
you want to be.
not saying the quality of character. I just mean that it is operable throughout the city.
Through the Twin Cities
where I have never been and cannot verify for my own by myself.
But it's just funny because most of the people when you live there, the great thing about Minnesota is the outlying suburbs are still fairly close to the Twin Cities. So you can my ideal place was a place called Medford, Minnesota. And that's where I wanted to retire. Far enough outside the city that you're that you could go in for the day if you wanted to, but far enough away that you're away from all of the hustle and bustle. It's a unique place to live, but one place you do not want to be is the light rail at 12 at night.
I'm looking up Medford, Minnesota houses on Zillow right now.
Let's go.
Corey Anderson said, what is wrong with 13 going on 30? Yeah, why haven't you watched that?
Yeah, come on, Brett.
You're not well versed in.
I don't know
flicks.
anything about pop culture.
If you like Coyote Ugly, I think that you should like 13 Going on 30 as a similar lighthearted vibe.
For every Fast and the Furious I watch, you should encourage me by watching a chick flick.
Yeah, and we can talk about both.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
So you admit you'd like it.
I don't know what another example of a good chick flick that I like would be. I love I love The Girl Next Door, but that's a coming of age movie, not really a chick flick.
I think
a classic
13 Going on 30 will show you Mark Ruffalo is not pure evil.
Yeah, and that was my only introduction to Mark Ruffalo ever because I don't watch the other things.
Yeah. Waffle Sensei said Mike Tyson has a crappy Adult Swim show now.
I didn't know that. I know he's got his podcast.
Okay.
See, for that one guy who's so
they've always
offended,
got some grift.
He's been fine. Like us pointing out that he's been convicted did nothing.
Do you remember when he did like a random I don't know if he was on Joe Rogan where he's like, I think rich people are hunting homeless people. like the world's
I remember that.
Remember that? It was
that was really weird.
Yeah. He's like, I think the rich people are like hunting. And
wasn't that this year?
Yeah. It was like we caught
That's so funny.
I think it was Rogan, and he's like, yeah, and then she's like, Rogan just lets him go.
Joe
off
Rogan
about
is just
it.
like, tell me more.
Yeah, like he loves it. But yeah, he was like the world's most dangerous game or whatever. We're like, he maybe just saw that movie for the first time. He's like, yeah, I think rich people would do that.
This is a documentary.
Exactly. All right, guys, we're gonna move on. We got a couple of things at the end here. This is very cool. It's not really a full segment, but I wanted to draw attention to this. So Oppenheimer is being finished up right now, and they have done the entire of the recreation of the nuclear explosion without CGI.
I guess Christopher Nolan was feeling a little bit toxic that day, and he just felt like imposing a nuclear winter on the entire globe. And he was just like, oops, I just exploded a nuclear bomb for a film.
Well, they mentioned it because he did basically crash a Boeing 747 into an airplane hangar for Tenet. So he's very big into practical effects. The airplane scene from The Dark Knight Rises, and then you also have all the stuff from what do you call it? The truck that he flips over in The Dark Knight, all done practical. He loves practical effects. And Mary, me and you talk a lot about how a lot of what we lose in movies is like there's a lot of humanity and soul that's sucked out of movies because it's all done via computer generated imagery. So it's I
love how he talks about it but never outright explains how they did it.
Yeah. Well,
I want to know now.
There's a really funny image of him explaining Inception to a group of college film students where he's got 4 blackboards that all have multiple levels, and the kids are they look glassy-eyed, like, what the hell is this dude talking about?
You just have to watch it.
He's clearly a very intelligent and very detail-oriented filmmaker. So he says, I think recreating the Trinity test, the first nuclear weapon detonation in New Mexico, without the use of computer graphics was a huge challenge to take on. Andrew Jackson, my visual effects supervisor, I got him on board early and was looking at how we could do a lot of the visual effects elements of the film practically, from representing quantum dynamics and quantum physics to the Trinity test itself. Recreating with my team Los Alamos up in Mesa in New Mexico in extraordinary weather, a lot of which was needed for the film. In terms of the very harsh conditions out there, there were huge practical challenges. I do like the idea that maybe he's like, can I get some nuclear material?
I love these memes that Christopher Nolan just accidentally brought on a nuclear apocalypse.
all for a movie. Wouldn't that be?
He brought the nuke that all the black pillars were asking for.
It didn't, we thought it was going to be Putin, and it ends up being
me when I see the atomic fallout kill my family because Christopher Nolan didn't want to use CGI.
I like the idea that he's like, I have to up the ante. How do I do that? Let's make this nuclear.
Yeah.
He's really upstaging James Cameron's visual effects right now.
He's like, we can detonate an explosion with the same with the same blast radius. He's like, but is it actually going to cause a nuclear winter?
He's like the method actor of stunt effect person.
The method director.
He's the method director. I mean, also, he's operating off the principle of if you don't ask, it's always a no, right? What if he was they were like, oh yeah, we're going to detonate some stuff already. So you could just check out our nuclear explosions.
Yep. So he says
he was being such a toxic bitch that day.
I do like the idea that he went to the studio, and when they're like, he's like, okay, so the nuclear bomb, I want to do it practical, and just seeing the producer Like, seriously, dude?
I think it's cool because we often criticize an over-reliance on CGI environments in film these days. It really takes us out of the story, so it's cool that he's going for practical instead.
Porco Rosso Forever, the chat says, he's like, it's only New Mexico.
Yeah, he's not missing anything.
And like, Alex Baldwin is somewhere like, yes, do it. Do it now.
Yes. So he says, it's a story of immense scope and scale and one of the most challenging projects I've ever taken on in terms of the scale of it and in terms of encountering the breadth. How do you say that out? Like, breadth. Yeah, I can't say that.
It's sort of
properly.
like your name, but
yes,
less crisp.
Breadth of Oppenheimer's story. There were big logistical challenges, big practical challenges. I just appreciate it. I appreciate the care put into the work. And in a world where it seems like the directors are all too happy to hand over the reins to the studio to do the effects. Remember, Marvel's very famous for like, they give these directors projects, but they're like, don't worry about it. We'll take care of the action scenes. We'll take care of the special effects. Nolan is one of the few that's kind of allowed to be who he is because he brings in money. He's allowed to make them their money. Minus Tenet, which didn't really make any money, but that was COVID.
I hope that James Cameron's Avatar sequel underperforms its $2 billion goal and is a total embarrassment because it completely relies on marketing the visuals and not a story. And then Christopher Nolan will come in next year and show that you don't need to rely on high budget CGI. You can do it yourself as long as you are willing to put in the care to do so.
I like the idea that he just learns to hate James Cameron and just makes Avatar practical.
Yes.
He just creates he just has a geneticist and scientist actually make not like the Na'vi and like
just do really good makeup though.
Yeah. And he just makes it himself in real life. And then he just goes through all of his movies and he's like, he builds a real Terminator.
Yeah, because James Cameron makes the same argument. I make all the money so I get to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
But I hope that, Avatar 2 might call his bluff on that. $2 billion to break even is absolutely insane.
Well, we'll have to see. Well, you know what? It doesn't even matter because he's not even going to be at the premiere. Did you see this? He has to skip the premiere for The Way of Water in The Way of Water in
I love that
Hollywood.
He called them up and he was like, guys, I'm sick. I can't make it to the 3.5 hour long premiere of this movie that I've already seen 10 times.
He's just bored. He just doesn't want to come. He's like,
he saw that positive test and he was just like, yes.
There's no positive test. He like bought one off his friend and was like,
he took some red marker and just like added the extra line.
It's real.
He's like, they're like, can you bring the test? He's like, I'll send you a picture.
They even said James Cameron has COVID but is feeling fine. So he's completely asymptomatic. He just didn't want to show up.
He's like, hey man, the rules say I can't.
It's serious stuff, man. This is another reason that Hollywood is keeping its COVID restrictions in place. So its directors don't have to sit through movies everyone else has to.
He says, I'm in LA and just got back from Tokyo and I managed to pick up COVID on the plane. So I'm isolated and I can't go to my own premiere tonight. Oh,
he should have used a private jet.
Well, maybe,
he's so poor that he can't afford a private jet.
He says, that's it. So he's like, I think he really did. He's like, oh, thank God.
See, I feel like him saying it's on the plane, like, initially he wrote it out as, like, I picked it up in Tokyo. And they're like, don't say that. That could sound terrible.
You will get very
I love the rest of this quote. The number of people I've told over the years will catch up and I'll see you at the premiere. Well, I guess not.
Man proposes and God disposes.
He clearly just didn't want to catch up with all of these people he told he was going to catch up with. Like this
event execs were like, why are we spending this much money on this stupid movie?
This event would have taken him like all day to do all the schmoozing, and then you have to stay awake during the whole movie.
No, you don't. You can sleep through it.
I love the idea that he just tried to call in sick, and they said, we don't have what? This isn't a regular job. You can't. You
can't just do that.
Like, there's no call-in sick line here.
They even the actresses on this set even say, Jimmy. This is what they call him, Jimmy. Gross. Jimmy demands the most from all of us, and he does the same. He forgets to eat sometimes, so I leave him some chocolate or nuts for him to stumble upon around set.
Is he a mouse?
He's a child.
Like, he forgets to drink water sometimes. He's so silly. He's so quirky and dedicated to his craft. It's just like, he pretends to be about it, but he's really not.
See, the thing is,
when it comes to actually sitting down and watching your own movie for 3.5 hours, no one wants to do that.
Maybe if he had just kind of embodied some of that toxic masculinity, he could have toughed it out and just
maybe
made
if
it through
he were, higher in T,
like
he would have made it. He would have been virile enough to make it to the event.
Isn't a common complaint of women about toxic masculinity that men don't know when to they literally work themselves to death and then die young because they don't know how to take time off.
Yeah, and that is the effect of testosterone, risk-taking behaviors, ambition, confidence.
But then there's also
drive.
the women who make fun of men for when they get a cold or when they get the flu and they complain as if the world's ending. They're like women have their period and have to just tough it out. Men, when they get the sniffles and they act as if the world is ending. So maybe he's just got a cold. He's just got a really bad cold.
When men are not very sick, they just ignore it and don't mention it, and then when they get sick enough where they can't ignore it, it seems like they're making a big deal out of it.
Yes.
If I had my fully funded research institute, the second thing I would follow up on is men who are they get the slightest wisp of a cold and they're like, I'm sick, I'm out of commission, do not contact me, I'm resting. Do they recover faster than the women who tough it out? And before the feminists come for me, I know they're like, women don't have the option. They have things to do. They have to keep working.
And the gender pay gap means they have
whatever,
to.
Who cares? Their kids won't be able to feed themselves, and their husbands will get lost in the house. Whatever the reason women have to push through their colds is, maybe if they did what men did and threw a fit and were like, I'm out of commission for 3 days, they would recover faster. We never see the second part of this conversation.
The problem is the women also end up needing rotator cuff surgery from constantly patting themselves on the back for doing basic household tasks.
I don't like it when you lump me in with this. Also, I know plenty of men who were like, I unloaded the dishwasher. Isn't that great? And you're like, yes, you functioned like a basic human.
Yeah, but they do that. They do that strictly for so that their significant other will compliment them. Women do it to complain so that other people will just understand how annoyed they are. Men do it to get some type of a reaction from their girlfriend or their wife.
I just want to say both sides are wrong and both sides have merit, right? Women shouldn't do stuff just to complain about it, but men shouldn't also expect endless compliments for taking care of basic things.
I also don't think that someone like James Cameron is representative of how most men behave. I love the idea that James Cameron is just lounging in some luxury hotel in LA right now, ordering room service, probably watching Terminator.
They probably got a live stream of the premiere. He's watching it from his hotel room.
They say he's gonna complete his schedule virtually, as if that's possible.
I like the idea that he
work from home.
He's literally doing this to avoid answering all of the producers who were like, we spent money on this, it's not even good. He's like, I have COVID, we can't talk.
Sorry,
this Zoom call is going off, the internet's bad, don't talk to me.
You can see him on camera and he just takes a bag of potato chips and start crunching.
He's like, welcome to your break, and just cuts the feed. All right, and before we go, guys, did anybody here watch Westworld past season 1? Anybody?
I watched the first 2 episodes of Westworld yesterday, but this is a complete coincidence.
So
I watched the first season, and then I stopped dating the guy who had the HBO account.
And you gave up.
So there was no way to see season 2. It basically disappeared.
So I only saw the first episode of Westworld. It wasn't my thing. I love Jonathan Nolan. This is Christopher Nolan's brother, who's the creator of that show. Love his work. Otherwise, this is also, I was very poor at the time, so I couldn't have afforded it. I would have had to have sailed many a high seas if I had wanted to watch it. And I'm a man above that type of character.
If you want to watch Westworld,
you're going to have to sail the high seas
until they can sell it to a new platform.
Basically, it has been they didn't just cancel it after season 4. They're removing it from HBO Max
It is anathema.
Yes. The funny thing about this is this is a show where it's they got rid of this. They got rid of the Gordita Chronicles. Yes, that is the real name of a show. The Nevers and a couple of other things. And basically what they're going to do is they're going to move it to the fast platforms, meaning free with ads. Mm-hmm. So they're like, you know what? We're not even going to let you finish. Remember, this show is planned for 5 seasons. So they wanted this show to have one more season, and apparently got so bad that they're like, nope, you not only don't get to finish your show, we're still going to pay the lead actors because it's in their contracts for them to get paid, but we don't want you to finish it.
I never understood this, how a show can go so downhill after such a strong first season? Do they just give up and they feel like they have attained a big enough audience off of one season to keep them for 5? That never works.
I feel like they get anxious and then shake up their writer's room, and then they like misunderstand why the show was doing well.
From what I understand, the Critical Drinker says that this is one of the examples that got not just woke, but super ultra mega ultra woke. From season 2 on. And I guess that's about right too, because that's about that time, 2016, 2017. Maybe if it came out in 2017 or whenever it came out, maybe it was 2018. Like it was right at the end of the part of history where people were more rational. So that first season got filmed before that all started, and then it got inserted into season 2 as the writer's room.
Or they brought in one bad actor to that writer's room that corrupted the whole thing.
And that's the thing about stuff like this, is like it ruins the idea that you want to actually watch it. Like I said, I started it, never got around to finishing it, and I'll never start it again now because I'm not going to want to watch. And I'm not a completionist. I'm somebody who can watch, if there's a show with 8 seasons, I can watch 5 seasons and just stop watching.
I am going to finish the rest of the first season and maybe start the second one just to see how bad it gets, because I'm curious. I have just a morbid curiosity about it. But I just love the idea that HBO Max takes a series like this off of their platform and then adds Lizzo's autobiographical documentary. Like, what is your target audience? I really don't understand. Who is interested in that?
I don't think they understand. I think that's the problem. I think they're like, Lizzo kind of trends whenever she's on Twitter, so we'll put her on. But like, Westworld, from what I remember about it, had a pretty like serious following across all kinds of age gaps, and I knew women who were really into it, men who were really into it. They're thinking they need like small devoted audiences, when really like you are able to produce wide-reaching content. You just can't put the messaging you want into it, and that's no fun.
So it says the next 3 seasons aired in April 2018, March 2020. So yeah, if season 2 aired in 2018, likely it hit the Ghostbusters 2016.
It was right in that sweet spot where cinema just went to crawl in a hole and die.
Ghostbusters 2016 happened, and literally Hollywood just disappeared one day. Like their ability for nuance in any type of reasonable portrayal of anything other than the message vanished, and we have all been the victims ever since. So we just thought that this was funny, that it literally is so bad that they're like, not only are we not going to have it on here, we're going to just get rid of it entirely. So it is what it is. All right, guys. Hannah Claire, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at hannahclaire.b. You can find me on Twitter at hcbrimolo. And you can find me, of course, on timcast.com. Click on the read tab. I can't talk. Click on the read tab. You can see a lot of stuff from our journalists. I just published an interview with Laura Loomer on her lawsuit. Now that the Twitter files are out, you should read it. And follow Timcast News on Twitter.
Perfect.
I still remember when she cuffed herself to the Twitter headquarters.
I remember that too.
Iconic moment for her. I have one more super chat to read. Crispy Like Transport LLC said Mike Tyson cartoon show been out close to 10 years maybe.
And let's not forget the unbelievable video game Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
There's also that isn't there that documentary about him coming out soon?
Yeah, the one that he didn't want made.
Yeah, he spoke out against it. Is that out already?
I don't know if it's a documentary, if that's just like a dramatized movie.
Oh, yeah. It was like a biopic that he didn't authorize. Yep. I don't know what happened with that. Anyway, you can find pictures of me on Instagram at Mary Archived, and also you can read my name thoughts on Twitter. That's also Mary Archived. And once again, I encourage you to go post your pop culture crisis related memes or out of context clips or memes about anything we talk about to our subreddit, Pop Culture Crisis, and we will select the best ones to react to for the next meme review.
Monday?
Yes,
Monday.
That's on Monday.
All right, guys, and before we go, please like this video, leave comments on this video and all the videos that you watch from us. Subscribe to the channel. It helps us immensely. Thank you very much. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at Brett Dasovic. For the show, we are here Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is noon Pacific. If you would like to listen to us rather than watch, we are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. Please leave us a rating, right, Mary? Leave us a rating on those platforms.
On Spotify, it gives you 5 stars to rate us. If you rate us and if you leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts or on Amazon or Apple Music. That helps the visibility for the podcast for new listeners.
And of course, it should be a perfect review because we are a perfect
Of
podcast
course.
that never
no
makes
criticism
mistakes.
allowed.
We don't make mistakes.
Of course, because PCC is just CCP backwards.
Exactly. We make sure to edit all of them anyways. We
Yeah.
aren't allowed dissent here. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you'd like to follow us on social media, we are on Twitter at popculture_show, Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. We'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then, guys. Later.
Bye.